So we start now.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Oh shit! I'll make sure I have this shit in the right port again because last time I did it and it was silent for a minute. Can I be heard? Can we be heard? Last time I let us
Actually,
I
know.
think you're good, dude.
All right, let us know what's going on. Oh my god, I'm so tired. You understand?
yeah, I can hear you.
All
Or
right,
at least
Yo,
on the
yo,
stream,
what's
at least.
good?
welcome to the Berserk stream. This is the third video that you suggested and voted for. My Hero one, then it was Kingdom, Berserk, Vinland Saga, and then the sports stream. So this is the third one. I'm just letting you guys know from now the Vinland Saga stream because a lot of people are still just watching the anime. We're not gonna do a series discussion. I'm gonna do two videos, but they're gonna be two character discussions. I think I'm gonna do Canute or Canute, and one on Thorfinn. So I'm gonna premiere them. So stay tuned for that. But how y'all doing?
We
Doing
good?
good, man. Doing good. Got myself a Coke, so we're ready to go.
Okay, Vince, you
Doing
here
good.
now? See Yak.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm here.
Let me know that the volume is okay. You guys be saying I sound low, so hopefully I sound good today. But we'll just start off with the first question. I like to start easy. And if you hear something in the background, my bad. It's just I'm boiling water. I need some tea. But who y'all
Boiling
favorite
water.
characters in Berserk? I guess your favorite three. You'd say. You can go as in depth as you want for now, or keep it
Uh,
shallow.
okay, I'll start simple. Wait, am I good? Okay, yeah. Guts, Griffith, and probably I really like Shirky, but I probably have to say Casca is my third. Shirky's like 4, maybe a top 5. I don't know. Really depends on the day.
And what about Shirka makes her top 3 for you?
I don't know. It just like there's not really anything to it. I just like the magic. That's really it. And I think she's kind of just like interesting as a character, just in general. It's like there's nothing like deep to her. She's not as nearly as deep to like as like Guts Griffith or anyone else like that. I just like her as a character. I just like think she's designed really well. That's pretty much it. It's nothing too deep about her for me.
All right, so want to go next? Dritz, you want to go?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. So, I guess my top 3 off the top of my head would be Guts, obviously. I go gay for him. Farness,
Oh, that's a good one.
Farness, and then Griffith.
Uh,
Those are probably in order as well.
okay.
Guts, Farney, and then Griff.
Why Farney over Griffith?
The thing is, I really do like Griffith as a character, but when it comes to Farness, I think she's probably one of the better written characters that I've read about in most of the manga that I've read. For a girl, she is extremely well written. She's a very, very nuanced. There's a lot of layers to her character.
Mm-hmm.
Griffith would be a definitive number 2 if post Rebirth in the Falcon Millennium Empire arc, he had a little bit more humanity to him because we'll get into that later. But I think Griffith became a bit dull and boring after his rebirth.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
So if he had continued, and I think it would change going into the future, but from that point on, like from Conviction onwards, a lot of it is centered around the character growth of Farness and then Shirka. Whereas Griffith is more focused on just doing the things that make his dream come to fruition. But the character depth of those characters is like it's entirely focused on them.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What
Alright.
about you, Yak?
So,
Actually, you go
oh
ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
going?
No, you can go. Yes.
Oh no, I'll wait till everybody else go, cause I could talk for days.
No, you can go ahead. That's fine.
Do what you got to do, Chief.
All right. Now for me, me and him's list pretty similar. It's Guts, then Farness, and then for 3 for me it's Skull Knight. Cause every time he come in, he just be saying some shit, and he makes me laugh. He's fucking hilarious. Every time he comes in, he just like, y'all doing this shit wrong. Like you gonna die, bro. And he's like, Gus is like, huh? Like, what? Where you keep coming up out of nowhere? And he's just like, bro, listen, you're not doing this right. Come on, let's go. We got other shit we could be doing right now. He just
And then
be
just
killing me.
finishes.
Yeah, bro. Every time.
Every
He kills
time.
me. but he's just like it just be mostly he's three mostly because he's just interesting, and there's still so much that we haven't gotten to learn about him, but we do get layers of things that he has a great understanding, and it just brings the fantasy aspect of Berserk that sometimes you know doesn't get talked about much as the series. That's what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
So Guts is unequivocally number one. For me, like 2 through 10 kind of
210.
fluctuates a lot.
2 through 10?
Well, I mean, just in terms of liking people.
I asked
But,
for 3, sir.
Yeah.
You want to
We
go?
getting
I
there.
mean, do what you gotta do. I'm just like, whoa. You
Yeah.
two went from 3 to 10.
Yeah.
Do what you gotta do, kid.
Interrupting my process is shit.
All right, do your thing. Do your thing.
I think at this second though, my number 2 is probably Skull Knight as well. I just have always liked his dynamic, and there's so much mystery around him still that I want to get confirmed
Okay.
somewhat soon. And then I kind of fluctuate between Rickert and Griffith, but Rickert's only for one reason, and that's because of that glorious fucking slap.
Let's go.
Oh my
Facts.
god! Like my soul ascended to heaven when he did that. I shit you not. That was some of the. God, I was so happy beyond words when he did that.
That's my
But-
goat.
But just as a character, Griffith is just so compelling, and I am interested in get to talking about why he's kind of dulled a little bit in the recent chapters and that, which is actually interesting. It's something I thought about on the surface when I was reading it for the first time a few months ago, but haven't really revisited it. So I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, is it just me then that's left?
Yeah, just you, Abe.
Casca 1, Casca 2, Casca 3. That's all I need.
All right. Okay, buddy.
That's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever needed. That's all I ever asked for. No, I like Puck. Puck's my dude. Puck's not my dude as much as it used to be, but I like the little fairy dude.
So we got Casca, and then Puck.
And Puck, yeah.
So that's my answer.
So can you actually go a little bit in depth? I want to hear your perspective on what makes you like Casca.
Yeah.
Casca was my draw to the series. And the character I like the most. It's probably why when I was reading it way back in 2012, I got really disengaged for a long time because I just didn't like seeing her like this, and it wasn't like it's dumb, it's poorly written. We're gonna talk on her trauma, PTSD, and her recovery stage and all that stuff, and how it was interestingly handled. Whether or not you agree, if it will land or not, we'll see later on. But it's just I just waiting for it to come back to glory. I liked her relationship with Guts, how it built up everything. The thing with Griffith, that hurt, man. It hurt. And the thing about this series is people are sick in the head, and that's why people recommend it to me. You have to read it as a good a thing scene. Like, bro, don't do that. don't use that as the draw. Just tell me it's good. Don't do that.
You know how many
Yeah,
people
no, yeah, there's
recommend you read
there's
Berserk,
some
and then they're literally there like Birdman, just like rubbing their hands, waiting for they come to reaction.
You gotta do better. I just can't.
Yo.
Yeah, I hate that sick part of the it's probably just of the Twitter fandom part of it. There's just like, cause I've met a group of people that actually like really like the series and talk this thing, but there's just so many people that just seem to be there for just people getting raped and jokes like that. Like that shit not funny at all. I don't know why they think it's so funny and so interesting.
There's some aspects of it that are like genuinely funny in moderation, but
Yeah.
I have seen like people anytime they'll just like Donovan jokes are funny, but it's not funny when literally every situation is go like Donovan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst. You go on Twitter and you say Guts is your favorite like MC, and everyone just like that's the only thing you'll hear. The only
Yeah,
slander
literally
they have.
they'll just like post like a gif of Donovan raping Gus.
10-year-old who couldn't fight got raped by a giant black guy. It was ugly.
Come on.
I mean, I
man.
like the Donovan memes, but like it's just too much, man.
Yeah.
That's like literally
it
all
was,
you
never,
can
it was
do.
never it was never funny to me in any aspect. It's not that I took it overly seriously either, because I didn't really care. But it's just not funny to me. I don't understand the appeal of it.
I don't know.
But that's just me.
All right. I'm actually. Tell me what some of your favorite or most memorable moments are before I talk about the arcs. Memorable moments in the series.
My most memorable will always be Guts beating Griffith, and him just being like, I'm gone. like you can't
Facts.
keep me here,
Mhm.
because that's basically was the complete turn of the series. And we're gonna talk about this soon, but I, that in the anime was harder than it was in the manga for me. I actually think the 1997 anime is one of the best adaptations ever of anything, personally.
Yeah, I agree with
But
that.
it's because like the music with the scene, his theme is just so the English dub. I've never even watched it in Japanese. I've only watched it
I've
in
seen it in both.
Japanese. Oh, great! How did you like the Japanese? I've never watched it in Japanese at all.
I like both.
Okay, because I was like, funny enough, I actually watched it on YouTube. Funny enough, I watched the whole series on YouTube because it was on YouTube for whatever reason.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just like that part of Griffith just looking so defeated and him just walking away, just like on your white horse while he was doing all the fighting.
Mm.
So it's like, of course he won. What you expect? You thought you were just gonna be over him forever? It's like, nah, man. But that one for sure. I really like the part where Farnes, like, it's a weird like because it's gonna come off kind of weird, but it's like when Farnes was like thinking about burning people and stuff like that.
Mm.
That was like her fixation. And I was just like, because I was just like, I've never seen that. So it was interesting, and it just like her character became interesting to me from that point on, because it was just like this weird. It was seeing a version of a character's like six fixation that I've never seen in a manga, so I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I'd probably have to say where I mean, this is just like a cool meathead moment where Guts throws on the black swordsman stuff.
Oh, at the end of the eclipse, whenever he walks away and makes his
Yeah,
declaration.
yeah.
Yeah, that is nice. I actually do like that part quite a bit.
I
And
like.
like there's like Goto's speech before that about what the Dragon Slayer can actually kill a dragon,
Mhm.
Man,
and he goes,
Goto
"If there
probably would have
was
been
one."
one of my favorite characters, and we saw a lot more of him. Like
He's
when you
actually
get
he's still
him,
one of
he's
my
really
favorites.
good. When you get him, he's really good. He's just not in my top 5. I mean, there's not that many Berserk characters, but he's obviously top 10. But he
Yeah.
just like, if I got a whole lot more of him, he'd probably be in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite is when he leaves the Band of the Hawks. That like first, like that. Well, not the first time when he leaves, and the Griffins don't let him leave, and he just cuts. I like that. That's probably one of the most. Because I'm like, because I was like, why is he still here? Like he just gotta go. Like he's Drippers do what he gotta do. You're not one of these people that are there in their fancy uniform, ball dancing. He's like, why am I here? This is whack. I need niggas to kill. So when he left, I was like, thank you, thank you. That's what I needed. But I like the moment where it's like, you forgot that you've been sending this guy to do some crazy shit. Like he got stronger from the first time you guys faced, and then he put him that little sword clash, put him down with that Casca. You know what it was, and then you had to just go. And I said,
Yo, Casca's outfit in that scene.
yeah,
Mm.
you go, dude.
Mm.
So like that's probably one of the moments that stands out to me the most. I mean, come back to me after. I think it's something else, but yeah.
Yeah, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, a couple that come to mind. Obviously, Guts leaving the Band of Hawks. That was so fascinating on so many levels. It impacted Griffith arguably more than it did Casca, which is always interesting when you take a step back and think about Casca's feelings and all of that. Obviously, the eclipse has traumatized me immensely.
For sure, for sure.
Oh my god,
Wait, you remind me of the one guy who's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go out Kangin. You just the demon turned into like titties. I'm like, bro, this guy.
I hated him. Nobody. Almost everybody hated him.
Yo, that shit had me weak.
nobody
I was
messed him
crying
down.
real tears.
That was like the only time that I even
man.
chuckled at all during that whole experience. God, that just crushed my soul, man. It hurts. But
Yeah, you took the eclipse pretty roughly.
I did. It was awful.
Yeah.
No,
Truly one of the most awful things I've ever seen.
Bro, I didn't know what I was getting into when I watched, because I watched the anime first, right? The '97 anime.
Yeah.
My friend just told me, watch it, skip episode 1, start from episode 2, and then come back in episode 2 or episode 1 afterwards. And I got to episode 24, and I got so mad that he just didn't tell me that I just like didn't talk to him for like 3 days. I was so upset and like so shocked because I got so attached to everyone, and then they all just died.
It's like there's literally just no reason to do that. But well,
Well, I mean there
So
is,
I
but
had
like there
a
isn't. But
way more extreme reaction than you guys did to the
Mhm.
eclipse. What I like, my reaction to the eclipse actually perfectly parallels Guts during that point in time. Because when I was reading the eclipse, I was completely devastated. Like, you know, like that point where it's like you're just reading, like you're too shocked to think about it. You just keep turning the page to see what's happening. I was like that, and then during the rape of Casca, I was so fucking
oh,
pissed off. I was so furious, like I was like shaking. And then afterwards, whenever we find out, you know, Casca turns into a potato, I got so pissed off at Berserk that I dropped the series for a year and a half before even touching a single part of that series ever again. I had my own Black Swordsman arc. Why went I just ignored Berserk for a year and a half because I was so fucking pissed off that scene
oh
even
my god.
happened. But when I
Bro,
came back to it, it was just so much better. I was like
did you
Guts.
absorb it in anime form or in manga form?
No,
Because
just
I'm
a
not gonna
manga.
lie, I'm gonna say the anime form made it that much more devastating to me
Oh
because it's
yeah.
like you didn't even have a next episode to go to. It was
Yeah.
just over. That's how I'm like. That's how you end this series. I was like, bro, if I didn't know there was a manga, I might have not ever watched anime ever again because just how traumatized I was at first. I was just like, why did they do this? Like, who allowed this to be like made and end like this? I'm like, this
Yeah,
is worse than any hentai, and it's just like, but it's also like as traumatizing as that was. It's like the people that are be like that that just be like, you know, they would do the same thing in that position. I'd be like, do you realize everything that entailed and what just happened in the eclipse?
ugh.
You
yeah. The Eclipse
literally
is probably one of the most
sacrificed.
fucked up things in like in manga history.
Yeah, it's like you sacrificed a large group of people, and they didn't just die. They didn't just die. Like they literally got obliterated in the most painful,
Oh, you trying to
torturous way
live the rest of your
possible.
life with no fucking muscles, my guy? No, you're not. That's not it.
Nah, man, just
He
kill, just
he didn't
fucking
have
kill
he
me,
didn't have to
dude.
do what he did to Guts.
Just
That and Casca. That's what I'm like, bro. But I'm like, you know what?
nah,
That was
bro.
You see all
You
these
know, the thing
guys?
that makes it
Fuck
even
'em.
worse, though, is the fact that we learned in the Black Swordsman arc before the eclipse even began that any person who is branded whenever they die,
Yeah.
they go straight to hell immediately and are tortured for all eternity.
Oh god.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's no happy ending like after they died. Like Judo, whenever he died, he died like
that
an
Oh
was
man.
absolute G. I fucking love him. He just goes
Yeah.
straight to hell.
Sucks.
Yeah,
That still
here's
hurts.
my problem is
Not gonna
too.
lie.
But I'm gonna wait. But my problem is that the whole thing could have been avoided. But we'll wait. It just could have been avoided. That's why I don't. That's why I always say that there's no situation or that's okay to me because it would have never.
It was
But we
Griffith's.
can
It
keep
was
going.
Griffith's fault.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could argue any differently.
It was his fault. He got himself in that situation. But if that's the only way out, I'm taking it.
And
Well,
then
he
you
was
raping-
also
and then you
manipulated
raping
by Void in that
people-
situation as well.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
agree with that.
oh
What's
yeah,
up,
he
Nelly?
definitely was. But raping people
Because
early
during the
afterwards.
entire time, Void was basically giving him a narrative, acting as if, you know, it was all destiny, and he had no choice but to do that. But that's kind of part of the God Hands thing, where they'll try to convince you. Void is a very scheming character. Even he did this before the eclipse even began. Whenever he was talking to Baron Slug,
Mhm.
whenever we first learned and we first saw the God Hand, they were basically trying to manipulate him into sacrificing his daughter again. He did that the same thing with Griffith.
Yeah, the God Hand are just so fascinating because we don't know what their end game is and how that all ties into what's going to be Guts' eventual final obstacle. But it's there's so many different paths that Mira can take. It's I really want just to learn more about all of them.
First thing
'Cause
you
we
should
don't
want
really
is a
have a lot
chapter to
about
come out. That's the first thing you should want.
Okay.
Talk about all of that like this shit comes out. You need to just
Yeah.
relax.
No, we stay feast on air. But I think some of my favorite moments in the series, I would literally have to compile like a giant list of them. but the things that come to mind immediately for me are the Chich chapters. I think it's like
Oh,
329 to 331. Three
Yeah.
chapters. Those are actually, as odd as it sounds, to me, those chapters, I was never more sad ever than reading those chapters. Even the eclipse didn't make me as sad as I was when reading those Chich chapters. For reasons I could explain later. And then other shining moments would be Guts's monologue to himself after conviction. I talk about this all the time on Twitter. But
Mhm.
whenever he says, "Have I ever before wielded a sword so heavy?" and there's just like the entire dynamic with him just talking to himself and breaking down at the pain of actually trying to take care of Casca, and then she comes to hate him. That hits me every single time. Guts and Jill at the end of the Lost Children arc. I absolutely love. I adore the interactions. I always go back to that. It's like my screensaver on my phone and at work.
I feel that.
Nelly, did you have anything you wanted to chime in? Impactful scene? Any moments? Your favorite moments from the Berserk?
I pretty much got most of them. I do like I always, I like the recent stuff because I felt like we've been building up to this for a while, and I liked how he after coming back. Even in the whole thing, how right before they're about to bring her back, they even had like the heart had forgot what they called it, the curse on it, and then they were debating whether to still give her back her sanity. That they're not sure how she'll be able to him her getting it back. Thanking everyone they did for her because they really didn't have to do all that. Like they went above and beyond for her because they didn't even know her.
That's about fucking time. I needed
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
That's what I needed. 100%.
Yeah, I'm
How
glad.
many
I'm
years
glad.
it
I'm
was?
glad the wait. I'm
People
glad
said
the
like
wait for
15
that
plus.
is
I think.
finally over.
Like I was
Yeah.
like, yo,
We were
15
on the
plus
You know,
years,
a lot of people
that's
waited 20 years for that.
20.
I know
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So-
I really picked the right time to read it for the first time because I had pretty much no wait for it at all.
Wow,
Yeah, I couldn't
lucky you.
imagine being like.
I waited 7.
You gonna wait for the
Damn.
next? You gonna wait 7 years for the next chapter though?
I couldn't imagine being fans reading Berserk
No,
as
I
it
don't wait.
came
I
out
don't.
in the
I
late
don't.
90s.
That sucks.
And like,
That would have been the worst
then
experience of all
you
time.
wait until like 2016
Now
for
imagine,
Casca to finally
now
return.
imagine me with Hunter.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like
the first
honestly,
hiatus.
I don't feel like Berserk fans at this point wait as much as others here. Probably because Mira doesn't really dig tease us like other mangaka do. Oh, good to gosh.
That is true.
But
That is
but yeah, we don't really wait for it.
Mirrored
When
and
it drops, you're just like, oh, finally, great. But it's just like he has a pattern. He's gonna be a hiatus during these 9 months for sure, and he might only work like he's not. They're not constantly telling us. They're not constantly telling us, oh, he might come back this, and this. It's like no, you're not even getting your hopes up for that. You
Yeah.
just wait. So
Yeah, that is a difference. Having at least talk to the Berserk community people for a little bit and seeing their interactions. I haven't really seen like people like. I mean, I wish we got a chapter this year, but it's not like other series where like they complain if there isn't a chapter. Berserk fans are like so used to it that it doesn't really bother them anymore. It seems like
yeah, not at all. We're not bothered at all.
people just go and reread the series and they have just as much fun doing that as they do wanting a new chapter.
That's all you
Yeah,
got.
Berserk fans reread a lot. I'm not one of them. I'm rereading it next year, but they reread a lot. The last time I like the whole thing was like 2-3 years ago. Like I might reread parts, go look at specific parts that I like, but there's literally people that they'll be like, all right, 3 months have passed, need to reread Berserk again. I'll be like, bro, that's just torture yourself.
That's basically what I do.
That's what I need to do because I never reread this series since I caught up. Right.
Thanks. Like whenever I asked you that in the DMs the other day, Naya, I was actually shocked because you said you caught up in 2012.
Yeah. It's a lot of
20
I don't understand. Like, how would you catch up in 2012 and like one chapter comes out a year and you're just like, yeah, I won't go back and refresh my mind on it.
Well, because you just move on to so many other things.
That's the
Like,
thing. I just had so
yeah.
many other things going on. It wasn't that I didn't want to, because like I told you, every time D Gray Man after chapter, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Now I have to read a D Gray Man all over again. So I started to read D Gray all over. I used to have D Gray Man all the time. I must have read Black Lagoon from start to finish 10 times because every time a chapter comes, I'm like, fuck is happening in Black Lagoon again?
Man, listen,
all over.
man.
It's so annoying.
I couldn't even. I'm not a huge fan of D I've never been. I kept up for it for a long time, but when she dropped like that 8-page chapter or whatever, I was like, yeah,
Oh god.
we're not doing
I had to
that.
Google to make
We're
sure
not
that
doing
was real,
it.
bro.
I was like,
Like,
I was like, we're not doing. I don't have the strength of character to continue to do this.
Strength and
This is just ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. I'm
Why
actually
they
gonna.
gotta do us like this, man?
I don't know.
Fuck.
I'm gonna save the arc stuff for a little later because I do want to. We'll talk about it when we talk about the Golden Age stuff. I'm gonna save that for later.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about for anyone who has seen the other adaptations. I want your opinions on them because I have seen a lot of the '97 stuff or whatever. Is it '97 you said it was? I don't remember what year it was.
Yeah, it's
97.
97.
I didn't sit down and watch episode 1 to the end, but I'd seen a couple episodes. I watched every scene that I really cared about. But I actually own the Golden Age trilogy. I have them.
Go movies. Go.
And I
haven't seen them
showed
yet.
them. I showed them to a lot of my friends, and
Yeah.
that got them big
Yeah,
into
I did.
Berserk because they're like, bro, this shit it's different, man. Like they loved it. They got into it. And some of them read it. Some of them actually ended up watching the anime, and then some of them actually watched the new anime, and they're so sad about it. But
No.
It'll break you.
It doesn't exist.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I watched one episode.
I watched like
2012 or whatever.
Clang.
Of whatever. I was like,
All it took.
I had a great time. It's ass though.
That CGI is the reason why everybody hates CGI now. Like that completely changed. Like I don't know how everybody felt on CGI before, or even if they even noticed what CGI was. But what they did was so negative that they completely changed the negative on CGI. Now everybody just thinks CGI is just complete and utter trash. There's no good aspects to it. And that's not true. Now, personally, I don't prefer CGI at all. I don't really like it. I like it in small increments for certain stuff like background or certain stuff that you can just kind of throw it in there and it doesn't look too bad. But overall,
Jay?
just having it for entire
What's up,
anime
what's up?
and stuff, I don't. But what they did was just so ridiculous. Like I can't believe they really thought they were gonna get away with that. Like I don't know what
But
they
wasn't
were
it funny
thinking.
though? It was funny.
Oh,
It was like funny in the
rolling.
most sadistic way possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was funny and I was so angry. All you could do is laugh because it's so bad.
I feel
Well,
like
thing it's like the
But,
biggest slap in the face to Berserk fans because, like, if you get a good anime for any series, that instantly boosts the popularity and how many people actually want to get into the series. And
Yeah.
Berserk fans just want other people to read Berserk so that they can get their opinions. And whenever we get like these shitty animes, this is like, it's like the
I know I would have been more. I'd been upset if it was something else, like something I really cared about. I think because I didn't even care like that. I was like, this is funny, but I understand that I'm a person that like, people like they hate dubs. The worse the dub is, the better time I'm gonna have. I love bad dubs. I don't care if the lip syncing is not there. They sound weird. Like all of that, I have a great time. This end of Stardust Crusaders. When Dio said the world time has frozen. I'm like, bro, why did you say it? The slowest Buddha I ever heard in my life? I had a blast. I had a great time. Shit was terrible. But
See, I like it. I like bad dubs for certain stuff like Ghost Stories, obviously, and Devilman. Like, cause it's just hilarious. Like, they literally just don't have a script. They just say whatever they want to. It feels like.
What about One Piece
But
for
anyway-
Kids?
oh, you could
Bro,
get clobbered if you're a
the
big
theme-
stiff.
the theme-
I'm angry.
the theme
and
song
I'm
used to
wet.
hit.
That shit funny.
Theme song hit. Yo, Sanji though, New Jersey Sanji. Come on,
oh
bro.
god.
I
bro.
keep telling you.
Yeah.
Why would I
Mama
keep telling you
niggas, bro.
Chopper's doctoring, bro? I keep telling you.
yo Jay. Give us your top 3 characters.
My top 3 characters. That is tough. I have so many characters I enjoy, but I really love Sir Pico. I think Sir Pico is a monster. He's a beast. I love Sir Pico. Guts, of course. And honestly, Judah, like he's been gone for a minute, but I really love Judah, bro. My man was so intelligent and always just. There's some characters where they don't really have much screen time, but when you see him, you're always happy to see him on the screen. And it's been so long, like Naya was saying, like I haven't read Berserk I haven't like reread it in such a long time. But whenever I watch the movies, like the movies for me is what made me really, really enjoy Berserk and like go through the read through. I really love the movies because I watched the anime first, then I watched the movies, then I read Berserk.
Mhm.
But like Judah in every single like every single iteration of the movies, the anime, and the manga just hit for me. So Judog, Guts, and Sir Pico. I love all three of them. They're my favorite
Got you.
characters.
Got you. For me, the '97 is the best. I don't blame anybody that picks the movies. The movies are super nice. It really kind of blew me away because I really didn't expect them to be that nice initially when I saw them.
Mm-hmm.
But the '97 just for me just hits different. The music and the
Gotta thank '97 for
It
giving
is
us like
together.
some of the two best OSTs in the entire world.
Oh yeah, those OSTs, they're stuck in my head. And every time I think of Berserk, I keep thinking of that same one. And
But-
Driss knows which one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He knows
yeah,
which one I'm talking about.
The goats.
bro, that it hits so hard. Guts' monologue with the English voice just hit so hard, and also like one of my favorite moments from the anime that didn't hit as hard, or at least initially, is when he killed when he killed what's his name kid? I forgot. Good lord.
The king.
When
or
no
whatever.
when he sent to go the general guy, his son, when he accidentally killed him. I forgot.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that shit was
Yeah.
dark. Oh man, that shit
Yeah,
hurt,
bro.
bro.
And he realized what he did.
Oh my god.
Like he really didn't even have time to set on it, but you knew he was like scarred from
He was
doing that.
fucked up from that.
Yeah,
He killed that
fell
kid
into
so
the sewer and then he
brutally.
had a nightmare about it.
I respect it.
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my
and
god.
then it's
Fuck
like
them
not only
kids.
that, it's like you. It's like you walking. Wow.
Come
But
on.
then he's like walking up, and you could see like just a look of defeat on his face, kind of like, well, it's done, and like he's trying to walk back to Griffith, and then here's Griffith, just like he feels like just slandering him, just like I don't need friends. He's like, do you realize what I just had to do for you, and you out here?
Oh, yo,
slandering me?
that ass. I'm
Yep.
like, yo, my own niggas. That's crazy.
Yeah, it just
Yeah,
like
you could see just Guts was completely destroyed by that.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I think it's the movie. I think the movie captured that moment perfectly, man. It really did.
Yep. Anyone else want to chime in on the adaptations, or we're good to go?
I didn't get to talk about. Was it 2012 when it came out? The CGI.
I don't even remember what year it came out.
Well, there's 2016. when it came out,
2016.
there was,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
It's been. I'll say this. I was so excited to finally see after the Eclipse animated. You know what I mean? Like seeing Farnese and I was just happy to see. I really wanted to see the Berserker armor, and I think it really broke my spirit at how bad the CGI really was. Like, it genuinely broke my spirit.
Turn one of the coolest badass powers into a piece of shit.
I know, just like I'll never forget this, bro. When Guts used the Berserk armor when they were on the beach shore and they were fighting those alligators, and when he cut that monster, oh my god! I said that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I'm talking like worse than Boruto type of animation. I'm like, yo, you are insulting me in ways I never thought I could be insulted before. Like I was so upset. And the worst part is I still enjoyed it because the story is that good. Like I enjoyed the story and I said, you know what, fuck the CGI. Let me just get the story out of the way and I'm good. I finished it.
And then they had the Guts versus Zod combat after Griffith was reborn. It was just clangs.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like clang sound effect.
Pots and pans. Pots and pans, bro. Just ridiculous.
Clang.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to get the sound effect you gotta get, man.
Nah,
hard
bro.
out You gotta.
It's like when you watch a
clang
it's like when you watch a hentai and you know it's jelly. They're squishing jelly together.
I'm crying. Crying.
That's what it's like, bro. That's not fun. You know exactly what that sound is. You're like, is somebody really squishing jelly behind this in their hand?
Yeah, I'm like, you're doing too much. You're doing too much.
This is the sound effect of someone who never had sex but thinks it sounds like.
Right, exactly.
Lying.
That's so angry.
That shit is so
crazy.
funny.
Yeah, just like how when, in hentais, whenever like one of the people just like come, it's just like a gunshot.
He's like, oh man.
Oh my god.
Atsui.
Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, movies dope. CGI trash. Anime goated. Bad. That's it.
Alright, so anyone else, by the way, before I don't want to skip anyone.
Never
No,
seen
you're good.
it. Never seen them.
Oh yeah, you just read them. So
Yeah, he just read it a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna talk about why this series is so heavily praised, and why people love it is regardless. A lot of people wouldn't really fight you if you said it's your favorite or the best manga they ever read. A lot of people would fight you. It's one of those things like I don't agree, but if you say that, I'll never be mad at you. I like if you think Berserk is the best, I wouldn't be mad at you. It's kind of like I always call it like the Jay-Z Nas thing. Like you could tell me those guys are your favorite rapper. I may not agree or the best ever, but I can't be mad at the answer. If you get what I'm saying.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple of things about that I want to talk about. So you first give me your reasons for why you think the series so heavily praised, or why you personally feel the way you feel about Berserk.
For me, it's the characters. I prefer Wait, shit. Okay, I prefer characters and stories more than anything. And that's like why like a lot of like my favorite series all have like very deep and like layered characters. So for me, when I heard Berserk had some of the best of those, obviously it made it really easy for me to like get into it. And obviously, like everything else that comes after, like Golden Age and Lost Children and all that, it's still written really well. But for me, it's because I just like genuinely care about the characters. So
I'll go last. I actually want to hear
Okay,
people's opinions on this.
All right.
there we
Well, I
go.
mean,
Another one is
go.
obviously main one would be the Golden Age, because for being a classic art was obviously okay. The series brought that type of quality to the table, especially that early on in like manga. I don't know the exact date. It's a pretty old arc and great quality. Two, the art's just amazing. The art can win almost anyone. Did you see how Maria with the pen could depict such not only scenes that's so dark, but like scenes that vibrant scenes as well. Like he isn't just like draws edgy like darkness, and when he needs to, he could draw like, vibrant and put the life scene. On top of that, like you said, the characters are pretty. They stand out. I would say, because I know most people will be like, "Oh, this might not be the most layered character ever," but even like a heroine like Casca, like it's hard to explain why, but like you just like she's just easy to talk about, and like yeah, like she's just easy to talk about, and it's the series overall. I just like how interesting like the world is, like when we shift from the medieval like horses and swords to like magic, fantasy, fairy, that, and yeah, like it got all these elements and it's balanced pretty well at a good level. Yeah, I would say that's why I think it's up there for a lot
Yo,
of people.
Who wants to go next?
uh, for me, to me, it's like I agree with everybody talking about the characters because that's always a super important part of anything. Because characters can carry things even when the rest of it is not up to par. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, for Berserk, and the reason why I still regard it so highly, even though it's not my favorite anymore, at one point it was, it's still in my top 10, but it's not my favorite anymore. But it's because it felt like everything in Berserk had a purpose. Everything.
Mm,
Every
mm.
Mm-hmm.
decision that Mira made had a purpose. You could disagree with it, you may not like it, but it had a purpose to it. All the trauma, everything, everything goes together. It fits together, and all the dialogue is important. It matters. Every character pretty much feels like it matters. Almost every character, not every character, but almost every character feels like they matter. And it's just like that because it's just like it's not like Berserk is carried by its fighting or anything. Because it's like it got fighting, but that's like probably one of the weakest parts of the series, to be honest. And but it just feels like you feel really immersed, and that's something like I have a problem with for like modern day shonens and stuff. Apparently everything goes by so fast. I don't feel connected to these characters at all. So when people be like, I really love this series and this, that, and the other, I'd be like, I don't feel like anything for this MC or for a lot of these side characters. Or it takes so long because just like when you read Berserk, he spends the whole series just making you feel something for almost every character. Love them, hate them, you feel something for the most part.
yeah.
It's stuff like that. It's just that not everybody can do and do at that level. Now, it is hard later in the series, especially after the golden stuff, that if you don't care about middle evil stuff and you don't care about just like
The golden stuff, huh?
yeah.
I'm still on that.
And you said
Y'all
later
are
in the
funny.
series, that's like after chapter 80.
No, but a lot of people, always just talk about the
They
golden
do.
age,
Yeah.
and then they just like kind of just stop talking about everything.
Yeah.
But and that's another subject. But it's just like if you don't care about certain like medieval things, you don't care about religion, you don't care about certain topics like that, the rest of the series might not appeal to you. Especially if you're one of those people that read it like ongoing. It really does get kind of boring because you have to be somebody who cares about dialogue, world building. Because it's kind of like now he's kind of building the world. Because it's just like normally with a series, you kind of expect that to start off, and he didn't. He did some of it, but now it's like now he's really doing it. Because like now we got elves and fairies and stuff like that, and you're just kind of like, okay. For some people, that may not appeal to them. Personally, me, I love all that stuff. I love medieval fantasy. My favorite series ever is Lord of the Rings. So stuff like this is just ice cream for me. This shit is greatness.
Yeah, facts. I think for me, it's like this and Game of Thrones, like or A Song of Ice and Fire, are like two of my favorite series. Like at least in book wise, we don't talk about the
The
Game of
greatness of
Thrones.
D&D.
The horrible last.
We don't talk about that. It
The
doesn't exist.
greatness.
Oh, greatest show of all time.
They didn't
Great.
even get started. I just hate to see it.
I hate to see it, but yeah, it's just like that kind of setting. It's just really interesting because there's a lot to like you can do with it, and obviously a lot of it comes down to execution, which, you know, George R. R. Martin and Mira are like really good writers, so makes it really easy to like for me at least.
Gotcha.
Yak.
So, I mean, I don't want to, belabor the whole characters thing because I know that's they're the lifeblood of pretty much every story. Like Vince said, everything else can really be mid, but if the characters are so spectacular, it's going to carry the story anyway. But for me, I really appreciate how Mira really, and you can tell he really cares about every character that he introduces. Because I feel like for the overwhelming majority of all of them, he's done right by them. And for me, I just really appreciate that because a lot of storytellers don't always do that, even with minor characters, especially. So I really appreciate that about him. And then
You said
with
Tower of God.
we're not
Wow.
going there.
I'm crying.
Wait,
couldn't
wait,
help myself.
Tower of Beams? You mean?
There you go.
But with a specific focus on Guts, his journey, I think obviously the specifics about it aren't something that we can all relate to, but the core of it, the conflict of what he's going through is something I think we can all really relate to because he just constantly struggles. And whether people want to acknowledge that or not, that's really interesting to all of us on a very basic level to see conflict and struggles like that. And you see where he starts and where he is now. I mean, a few chapters ago, he was thanking people for helping him, which is something that he doesn't do. And
I'm getting soft.
he is. But like that's just something that really resonates with all of us. I think that the specific journey and the conflicts and the obstacles that he has to go through are just really captivating, well, on a personal level. And then the world building.
Yeah.
The world building stuff's all cool. I'm all into all that. And the art's just spectacular. I mean, whether he's doing those dark panels or he's doing those super, white panels, there's just so much to it. Aesthetically, it's like, I really fuck with this shit, man. It's just really nice.
For sure. To piggyback off what you said a little bit about the struggle, I think that is something that personally for me that I prefer in my characters, but a little bit different because the type of struggle that I prefer is not the one where the guy is a coward or weak and then he has to go through all this stuff because it's just like that's done so much to me and it's just like, and I don't personally relate to that thing. Like the thing about this that I've always related to
Deck
was
was a
characters.
It's crazy.
The characters like
Okay.
characters like
Put the
Guts
seal back
and
on.
Kaneki and stuff like that. I always relate to people that struggle with things like what is black and white, an existential crisis, morality, stuff like that. Your existential existence. Because it's not like Guts is the smartest character in the world. Like a lot of characters you see in a lot of manga, it's like either they're like a genius or they got instinct or something like that. But none of those type of characteristics or words are really used to describe what Guts is. He's just a person that just looks into himself for a lot of things because he's not none of those things. He's not. I mean, he has instincts, but they don't really talk about them, and they don't really like be like, oh, he's just a genius fighter. He's the most tactical person on earth. Like, nah, he's not none of that. But he's just like, I gotta keep going because I have to survive. Like, no matter what. And that was his whole thing in the first place. But then it takes it to a different level. Because at first he was just like, I'm just swinging this blade to survive because that's all he knew. That's all he was taught. But now he learns the concept of like family and friends and love and all this other stuff. Because it's almost like he was a human with a blank slate. And then now you're like adding all this stuff on top of him because he didn't start off super complex. His backstory may have been complex, but as a person, he wasn't.
All right. Jay?
Berserk. You know, the funny thing is with series that I like, I caught Berserk when I was early. And with series that I truly enjoy, one, I always love a Savage MC. I say this all the time. And I also really enjoy realism to a certain degree. Obviously, this is a fantasy manga, but in terms of like legitimate consequences, yes, Guts has plot armor to a certain extent, but in terms of like legitimate real world consequences that we see, legitimate real world things that happen, like we're obviously gonna get into the topic later, but you have the things of like assault, rape, torture. You have things where it's just like, okay, this is something that happens in the real world to this degree, and someone like me who has a religious background, you see the what's the word, the religious corruption, philosophical corruption. There's all kinds of different elements that come into Berserk that make you think beyond just the fact that I'm reading a manga. It's like, okay, I'm thinking about life along with these characters, and people mention where they're talking about Guts and
this should change your lives.
not like you don't understand. You don't understand. Like you don't understand, right?
It's thought provoking.
Berserk,
Yeah.
Berserk is so.
I was a
the
lot
reason I
younger
love
when I read it, though. I was 8.
That's the thing, but like Berserk is like, it opened my mind up to like the actual fucked up philosophies in the world where it's like, yo, people really use religion to do horrible things, and then you have someone like Guts who really doesn't give a damn about any of that. My man has struggled his entire life, and then you look at people like Farnese and you see where she grew up, and you see how she had to take a 360, oh well, not 360, 180, see, oh my god, like what have I been doing? This guy, he doesn't really give a damn about anything I'm saying. So you see like people changing his characters, you see philosophies being introduced, thought-provoking themes that are coming in. The art, oh my god, like the art. If I'm talking about from a meathead perspective, I don't think I've seen better art. I just don't think I have.
You could talk about the art, by the way, because I feel like it ties into the question. So you don't be afraid to mention the artwork. Go ahead.
What I really enjoy about the art is that it really captures the exact emotion of certain characters, like Guts' rage. I don't think Miura could have captured his rage any better. I just don't think he could have done any better than what he drew. It's just, I felt every single angry like when Guts saw what Griffith was doing to Casca, I was so full of emotion, I couldn't speak. Like, I couldn't speak after reading that chapter because I felt Guts' anger to the point where I was overwhelmed. Like, that chapter overwhelms everybody. You remember Dritz when Fiji was read that part. My man was depressed. Fiji was depressed for a day, bro.
Anybody with a soul feels something when they read that.
Okay. So what he's saying to me?
You don't have a soul. We know
soul. Yeah.
That's what we're saying. You don't have a soul, bro. Yo.
Yeah. You were probably looking at like that's some good smut.
Yeah. He said,
yeah, right. Right. He's just scum. He's just scum of the planet. Scum.
Griffith.
Yeah. You hate to see it.
Griffith blowing that back gosh, that's what he said. I said,
I wouldn't have been
not the
surprised
art
if Nye
captures
if
emotion.
Nye read that and laughed. For real, for real.
I
I wouldn't
did.
have been
I
shocked.
didn't laugh at that part. I laughed when I laughed at the other guy when he died.
That's
Oh,
gross.
we
Yeah,
talking
I,
about
I just
yeah,
didn't.
yeah. He
I just
deserved that.
like. I just wouldn't have been
He
surprised,
deserved that.
bro. And we were reading it in the same room, and I feel some tears, and you just ah ha ha, and I'm just like, bro, I gotta leave. Fuck this.
I was upset because Cass my favorite character. I was very upset.
Yeah, you
Then
hate
you
to see
felt.
that.
Then you felt something.
I wasn't like guts angry. I was like, why the Casca? Why did that happen to me? Okay, I said to me, but you know what I mean.
I was more sad.
You guys were. I feel like you guys were more feeling it from Guts' point of view. I feel like I was coming more from Casca's point of view. I'm like, no,
I just
not
feel
like
like
I
from
this.
both
felt
their
it.
point
I
of
felt
views.
it.
Not
I
like
felt
this.
it from
Impossible
both.
not to.
Because
Not like
honestly,
this.
I think this series with that part right there, I think that series truly opened my eyes to how fucked up rape is. Like for real, for real. Like I don't think, like when you see it on TV, like sex and shit is so normalized and just in
Mhm.
everyday life. I don't think you realize how like traumatizing forcing yourself on somebody is. But then when I see that, I'm just like,
Fuck yeah.
yeah, it's just like that's
It's like,
different.
well,
Like
shit.
I've never been like, I'm just like, it's just like, oh my goodness, like rape is like the most unspeakable crime on earth. Good lord, like it completely changes if you don't, because like if you're not a girl or you just never seen rape or have rape happen to you, like you don't know how traumatizing that is. That's the closest thing like I've seen to like actually like without it actually being in real life, actually how it's like conveyed to some sense. It is interesting that you get it from both parties, from somebody who, well, all three parties, from somebody who just wants the power and the destruction over the other two people, the person who's witnessed it, and the person who it's happened to. It really is really different.
All right.
And I really,
Let me. Rich hasn't gotten yet, so when you're done, Dritz go.
God.
yeah, my bad. I'll wrap it up then.
No, keep talking, dude. You're good.
Are you good?
Nah, I just wanted to say like,
4 hours.
God, I fucking lost my thought.
Just get rid of
Alright.
half of the topics.
I was obviously we know the art's great, yeah, but just again the characters really just like, hit for me, and I think the part with my favorite part was I think the conviction arc where Berserk kind of took a new twist when you see what's his name Morsgus
Mozgus.
Mozgus dog Mozgus is fucking raw, bro. I can't. I hope we talk about him because he's just
Yeah,
fucking
he
raw.
would.
But the lore, the fact when the astral plane, the astral world and the actual world got merged together, like Yak was talking about, the whole lore of the medieval lore. You're seeing fairies, trolls. It's just like it immerses you in a completely different world, and there's so many different elements to Berserk. It's kind of like you don't really have that in many other manga. So overall, Berserk is just a full package to me. Like it has everything.
It really is.
It has romance. It has everything.
Dritz.
Okay. I guess the first thing I'll talk about, a lot of people have hit on the characters. I'll talk about like the artistry, how impactful is artwork whenever you're enjoying a series. So for something like manga, art and the quality of the art is not the end all be all. There are series where mangas are genuinely not good artists, but it is the quality of the storytelling that makes it stand out from other series. And then there are mangakas who are like amazing artists, but they couldn't write like they can't even write better than most high schoolers.
Looking
But
at you,
the art is so
Mashima.
amazing that it carries the series.
I know this, my goal.
And then there's like the rare few people that they are able to incorporate both storytelling and then art at a high level. And the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words is really, really true in the case for Berserk. There's a reason why historically art specifically has been of high praise and heralded as like one of the highest forms of entertainment. You're able to express and give life to things that otherwise would seem dull and boring if you were just reading it in a book, like your environment. A lot of people just skip over small details like that, but they don't try to actually visualize them. Art is like the pathway to that world. So whenever Miura has the paneling in the construction that he does, it really brings to life the themes of what he's actually trying to convey on paper, and he actually is able to put up like masterful dialogue. So if you combine these two aspects, it's probably one of the main reasons why Berserk is so stand. And even people who aren't crazy about the series, they will oftentimes be like, okay, that's fair to say. That's why Berserk is oftentimes in the discussion for like best manga, of all time, as subjective as it is.
Mhm.
But most people are actually okay with that being the case.
Now,
Yeah.
the thing I kind of wanted to add to that question is, just because you actors, I think it's a good point. It kind of goes into the monthly versus weekly thing, but at this point, you cannot call Berserk monthly. It's not monthly.
It's not monthly.
It was at one point.
It might be tri-weekly. I'll try yearly. I don't know, but
He's the
how much do you think it's the time that Miria gets to kind of it's not on a week to week getting the whip crack type of schedule. How much do you think the time that he gets to put so much effort into the work and into the artistry that helps elevate the series? Because I would argue for a lot of series that I read where there's hiatus and stuff. I feel like sometimes the author and or creative team, they kind of lose touch with the series. I don't know if they stepped away, they were working on other projects or whatever the case is. When they come back, you can tell there was some type of break. You get what I'm saying? I feel like with Hunter when they came back one time, like it's almost like I almost feel like he had a thought about Hunter. The 3 years he was gone and he came back and they just kind of tried to pick it up where he left off instead of really thinking about it. What's your take on that though?
So Miura has actually talked in interviews about the monthly to weekly process. So I'll share what I know from that.
Okay.
From his perspective, it's basically the thing that allowed him to write the story at a higher quality than most other series. A lot of other artists, they have like the week to create the chapter for that week, and you don't get as much time to think ahead about the story or to think about, how can I make this chapter that much better with the time allotted for it. I think people heavily underestimate like how much of an advantage it is theoretically to just have more time to do stuff and not having to worry so much about meeting your deadline 7 days a week.
No question.
Of course.
I mean, like, because think about someone like Oda right now. Oda says he gets like 4 hours of sleep a night.
He's a crackhead.
Like, if like at some point, no one's questioning the work ethic in that. But the issue is that at some point you're going to get diminished returns because, not to get all nerdy or whatever, but the human body is just not designed to work like that. You can't just continuously work on 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night and expect to be working at optimum efficiency.
Mhm.
Like at some point, you're just going to screw up. Like
Nah,
that's just kind of the way it is.
I'm fine. I'm doing all right.
You sure?
I'm doing okay.
That's
So
kind
like, but we see it though with like a lot of these weekly mangas though, where
I haven't even said that yet.
they have to storyboard and they have to draw it and they have to keep the story in the back of their minds the entire time. And you see a lot of this stuff just kind of it feels like it's rushed just all the time. And it's with all these stories that we read about how awful their schedules are. It's just there's not really any debate that the more time that these creators, if we gave them more time, that the stories would just be better. But it's not about creating good stories. It's about what are we going to do to make money. So it is what it is.
We got merchandise to sell, baby.
Mm-hmm.
In comes Chopper.
That's actually like the most unfortunate thing though. It's like I have always like said this. I think like I didn't realize like how stressful it is to like write manga until I like realized that Tagashi basically just like
Said fuck
was
this
just
shit.
yeah, he basically just like he basically I think at one point said like he just like basically can't function. His back is like is in horrible shape, and I'm like, man, like they should just like not make it weekly, just make it monthly, and then everyone's series goes like up in quality tremendously, but you don't just have like your authors just die.
You see
basically,
that's
in the
just never
process.
going to happen though, because take a
Yeah.
story like One Piece though, like
Oh, that's
Shonen
true.
Jump relies on One Piece to come out every single week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corporate
So, I mean,
power
like that's
is.
unfortunately they're not thinking about what's best for the stories. They're thinking about what's best for our bottom line.
For
And
the
Yeah,
profit.
that's
that's
the
just
sad
the
part
way it
about
is. And I mean that's just how businesses are. There's nothing wrong with that in a
Well,
vacuum.
it
It's
depends
just
on how powerful the business is because
Mhm.
there are lots of magazines that aren't in Shonen Jump that they're cool with monthly issues. That's fine. They're not worrying about it. They don't have to worry
Mhm.
about that. But with like a monopoly sort
Mhm.
of with a Shonen Jump, they will force you to do that regardless if you want to or not.
right.
And I think people underestimate how much power corporations have over the individual.
Oh, people have no
Because
clue about that shit.
even though Oda runs Japan with One Piece, the
So
power is not in his
One
hand.
Piece has become
No.
bigger than him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and as big as One Piece even is, Shonen Jump can still dictate way too many things with One Piece anyway. So as big as One Piece is, Shonen Jump is still bigger, whether everyone wants to get into that or not. But that's just the reality of the situation.
I know, and I'll add this because I think it's important. Because how much do the hiatuses affect the series and you guys' overall enjoyment or people's overall enjoyment? I I'm okay. I'm generally okay with the consistent schedule, as long as I know, like, okay, even if it's just every 3 months or something. Because I read comic books, right? Trust me, I've been dealing with this shit way before I started dealing with manga with the Gray Man, with whatever Vagabond, think about whatever. I've been dealing with stuff for a long time. Oh, yo, how many times was Doomsday Clock coming out and it got pushed back? Like, I'm so
Oh,
used to this.
Lord.
I'm so used to this kind of thing, right? But for me, my experience is as important as the actual body of work. I'm not gonna put the experience over the body of work, but it matters to me. So a lot of times when these series just stop coming out consistently, I stop caring completely. No matter how much I love Black Lagoon. How often do you hear me talk about Black Lagoon? I don't think about it because it's fucking come out. Now it's been
That's
a little
fair.
bit. It's been a little bit
That's
more
facts.
consistent recently. I think now it's coming out every couple of months or so. But I haven't even read it. I haven't even read it much this year because I'm like, I have to reread it again. I don't fucking remember what's going on. I don't feel like rereading it.
I hear you. Like the whole enjoyment versus quality thing, I think is important to keep in mind because there's no doubt hiatuses impact, the enjoyment. Because if it's not in the forefront of your mind either weekly or bi-weekly or monthly or whatever, I mean, you're gonna either eventually forget about it. Life does its thing, and that's just kind of how it is. But there is like we already talked about the correlation between having more time to actually create your story in that. But in terms of enjoyment, there's no doubt that the longer you're on hiatus or the more time you take in between stuff, the enjoyment's going to suffer. There's no question.
I think it kind of depends on the individual and the series you're talking about. From a casual perspective, obviously, the more you wait, it's like the fans aren't going to appreciate that because they want to read before they die. So there's that aspect to think about, and it's your job as a mangaka to actually, it's not just a one-way street where you have control over everything. At the end of the day, you're creating a product that is supposed to be entertainment for other people. So it's not just like a completely selfish thing, but at the same point in time, it has to depend on what you value. With a series like Berserk that has been out for like 3 decades, the demand for consistency in like the short term is not as much, at least in the general fandom, as it is for just quality in the long term. Because with Berserk, people have become so attached to the quality of how the story is told that I feel like most people generally don't care as long as the author doesn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
Well,
that.
going back to what Nye said was when he was talking about like the experience matters. There are, especially when you're writing something weekly, as long as you don't fuck up a major plot point or forget something majorly important, most things would be forgiven because it's just like you look back on it, or at least on the first read through. Now the second one you might be a little less forgiving, but when you're reading it, you're not always thinking about every little side character motivation and just like, oh, he didn't do this and this and this, unless you're just one of those people that kind of like that's how your mind works. But I don't think most regular viewers of things look at it like that. You're just like, I want to see my characters. These moments are cool. I'm going through the story. The story, as long as the story makes some level of sense, you're fine. And I think that happens with a lot of the major series, especially, and that's like the disconnect. People who really, really care about like writing and just like this making sense in the execution of this and how did you get from here to here, like you may look at that and you may be like, yeah, this guy really should have took like a month to like formulate his thoughts, get back on track and do stuff like that. And then the other people were just like, as long as it wasn't majorly screwed up, they were like, it's fine, it's whatever. It's just a difference in people though with a lot of that stuff too.
Sure.
Like me, like I'll overlook a lot of things because I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I won't rate it as highly, but I'll be like, yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. Like I didn't expect this series to have, you know, this level of writing anyway. Like I know what this is. Like Berserk, of course I do, but a lot of series I read, I'm just like, yeah, like I know the writing isn't gonna be spectacular. Like
It's that
it's
mid that
fine.
hits though.
Yeah, just like as long as they do the fun stuff that I like, I'm good with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's it.
All right. I mean, anyone want to chime in on that? Hiatus and stuff, or you good?
I mean, I think we're good. I mean, I think actually, well, I mean, I
Actually,
can chime in really quick. I think I don't have
uh,
to experience that as much because I finished reading it. I want to say like a month and a half ago. So I haven't really hit that like level of hiatus to where I just kind of forget about the series. I'm
Oh, so
still
you're
You
more
will.
of a
writing.
baby than I am.
You
Damn.
will.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm still like riding that high of like, man, this was like such a great series that I read, and I'm really excited still. And so like I'm still like kind of waiting, like, oh, you know what, we'll get chapters eventually. Now like I've already started moving on to other stuff, but it hasn't hit as hard as like other people I know who have like read it from like years ago. So
Say, trust me,
here's
it will hit you.
yeah soon.
Hmm.
for the hiatuses, I caught up like before the current arc started. Not before, maybe like a couple chapters, and it really like because I just reread it yesterday, and then like
Oh
I know
yeah, I
there's a
saw
lot
you
of stuff that's
yesterday.
yeah, it's like there's a lot of stuff that it's so hard to catch when there's like 8 months break in between them because you come back expecting like you get a chapter about this, a chapter about that, but that's not what you're getting. Because I think when the quote unquote Griffith chapters were dropping, like that was right before I think Casca just got free. And then like we had a week, another 8 months, and then we see him, and the people didn't quite get that, um, because they were building up to it. Like I think it was around like 3:45. One of the leaders of the village was how Griffith was using the word tree, and then to like bend to his will and stuff like that. They was telling Guts, what's he trying to do? The Guts is he's most likely even higher than just kingdom. And then we really see Griffith doing what they say he's gonna be doing using the word tree. Because like the gap between that chapter and the Griffith chapter was like years and years apart, even though in real time, I mean not in real time, in manga time it's 5 chapters. It really shouldn't be an issue, but it creates that issue. So yeah, I think that is really hinders overall with the
Kind of
Yo, is
cutting out.
homeboy
the
cutting
content.
out for me like
No,
every
Yeah,
time?
he's I think
you
cut
cutting out.
off.
You're
Oh
cutting out a
really?
little bit. I didn't hear that last part.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit each time. Like you have like little small
Like I
gaps
could I could piece
between
what
them.
you were saying, but that last part you were
Right,
gone.
right, right,
You were
right,
gone
right.
for too long. I didn't get the last part. You just said. So repeat that.
What part did I stop at? My fault.
All right, you moving
Uh,
on.
Oh Jesus
I don't.
Christ!
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Fuck it all.
that's
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still shopping on Amazon. Let me put this away. Okay, so guts.
Bro, I can't
What do you
stand this
mean? It's
man.
been like an hour.
I
Bro,
know.
he's always don't even mind it. At least he consistent. He do it for every stream.
Now,
He's
did you
always doing
finally
something.
buy Rocky's book or no?
I've been had it.
Oh,
It came from last week.
oh, good. My bad.
All right, so you guys kind of went into Guts, but Guts is often heralded as one of the greatest MCs in manga. I'm saying mangakas in manga, anime in general.
Facts.
Do you agree? Yes or no? And why do you think people say that a lot?
I
mean-
think for sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I probably the biggest reason why is because he's such a, I guess what's called a dynamic character, and that he changes so much that people, I think in general, people probably like that type of character more than a flat character. Not that flat characters can't be done really well. There's plenty of examples of them, but his journey and his changes are so they're interesting, and they hit home really really hard, and I think everyone just really vibes with them. It's for a comparison that some of you will understand from my perspective. Like it's not far off from how Gintoki and his whole thing kind of impacted me, and Gintoki is my favorite character in all of fiction. So
Facts.
for me, Guts isn't far off from that type of impact. So I think a lot of people feel kind of the same way, if that makes sense.
Okay. Jay, is Jay still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. You haven't spoken in a while. What? Go ahead. You did kind of speak it already, but anything else you want to add about Guts before I go? Because I probably want to disagree with all of you.
Oh, damn. Okay. Nah, just Guts' journey, like the way he carries himself. When I think of Guts, I think of the ultimate man. I think of someone who is like the pinnacle of masculinity in every sense. The struggles that men go through, he deals with. His protective nature over Casca, and how you just see that sense of like, yo, I will do anything to protect you, like anything. And you see, but at the same time, he doesn't turn into a simp. And Dritz, I know how you feel about simps, so like I know this is why you Guts isn't a simp. Guts is just a man. He's his own man. He has his own ideals. He has his own ambitions. But he's also not a Boy Scout. He's a savage. He's like, yo, I'm gonna have to get things done. And the only way for me to achieve what I need to achieve, I can't cry about it. I'm not gonna complain about it. This is how life is. I just gotta do it. That's it. No complaints, no crying, nothing. It's just straight head first, like, yo, Griffith, I hate you. Casca, I love you. I want revenge. That's it. And then whatever happens around him, he reacts to it accordingly, but always stays within his character, and then he'll develop as time goes on. And I think one of the biggest moments for Guts specifically is when he is battling with his the beast of darkness within him, where he's basically about to sexually assault Casca, and you see that horrible internal struggle that he's going through in that moment where he sees himself basically mutilating Casca, and he catches himself at that moment. A lot of people would lose themselves in their darkness to that, but Guts had the mental fortitude to be like, yo, no, I can't do this. Like, I cannot do this. And after he breaks away, it's to a point where he feels so much shame within himself that now he's so much more open to having compatriots and having people like Farnese and Sir Pico take care of her, because he knows as long as she's taken care of, it doesn't matter about me. And I just think that's just, he's kind of like the blueprint of what we believe a real man would be. And that's why I just think Guts is the GOAT.
Well said.
Anyone else, Dritz?
I'm actually very interested. I want to hear your take first, Naya.
It's nothing special. I feel like when it comes to Berserk, right? Because a lot of people are really into these dark fantasies, and there's this general idea that, things that are more serious, darker in tone, things of that nature, they're just objectively better. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think some of the greatest stories ever told were actually directed at children. Think about Avatar, Nickelodeon. That was not
That's fair.
technically that super dark. No, and it's a great story. Think about even a lot of Pixar, Disney people, like they're a lot lighthearted than nature. Guts is a bit much for me. I just think it's a bit much. From the moment he's born from his dead mother, I'm just like, oh my god, this edge. Like, it was just a bit much for me, right? And like, it's never come to the point where I'm like, this is not. I don't understand this. I think it's poorly done, handled, or written. Or that. I just always go, come on, man. And it's just, he does things that I don't agree. I don't need him to get nicer. I don't want him to accept this new group from the group. I need him to stay raw. I don't want that. Like, this is Endeavor all over again. I don't stop. Don't rekindle with your family. I don't want this. Stay an asshole. I don't want this. Like, I could never get mad be like, oh, now it's bad, because it's like, this is just my personal take where I'm like, I just wish he didn't go that way. But ultimately with Guts, he's, to me, because I don't know if it's because some of the other books I read and comics that I read, he's not that original to me. I think from a manga standpoint, sure, I've seen it before. I've seen characters like him before. He never blew me away from the moment I started reading it, where I'm like, just like Jay put it. Yeah, like, you can see the internal struggle with himself. He's learning to accept people, this and the other. I'm like, bro, I've seen this before. It doesn't blow me away personally. That's all it really is. He's not a bad character, but interesting imagination. But at no
Well,
point did I ever think he was one of the greatest main characters I ever saw. Like
well,
that thought
okay.
never crossed
You know,
my
that's
mind.
very interesting, Naya,
No,
because we've
that,
talked before about how awesome you think Zuko is, but Zuko and Guts are very, very similar.
This is but here's the thing now. Dustin loves doing that to me. If I like something in this story, I have to love it in this one. I must love it across
What
all
about it did you
narratives.
like in Avatar, but you did not like in Berserk?
Um, Zuko was a character that I didn't want him to be the way he was though. I wanted him to get better. I wanted him to disconnect from the Fire Nation and his family. I wanted him to not want to please his father. I wanted Guts to just stay the way he was, and like I hate this new group. I just don't. I'm not. We're talking about it. I don't like them that much. I really don't.
Why did you want Guts to stay the same though?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm confused about. I just don't understand.
There's no like
Rhyme
great
or
reason.
reason
It's just as I see
he
him
ate, that's why.
I'm seeing him kind of get soft and accepted. I'm like, this makes so much sense, but that's just not what I wanted to see.
It's kind of okay.
Okay.
So y'all have to understand with this. It's kind of like with Vinland Saga. It's like
Oh, that's a good
it
example.
was raw.
That's a good
it was
example.
raw with the very first half. And personally, I agree with him. Like me and him agree with Vinland Saga. Like we don't like the farm arc like most people do. Like I don't hate it, but like the first half where he would just run around stabbing niggas and doing shit like that, that shit was raw. And then all of a sudden, he pulling the vagabond into perspective. I need to like not fight anymore. Like nah. And
It's
sometimes just that level of extremity for some people, like even though Zuko went through his story, Zuko's story is not as extreme as Gut is. Like you said at the beginning, Guts is born from the womb of his dead mother. That's already fucking extreme as hell. Like that's dark and extreme.
There's
And
also
even
the
though their
Iroh, the
character,
Iroh dynamic and his family dynamic.
right,
All
yeah,
those things to me are like
bring that
way
up.
more
I
interesting,
was
and
just
it's
gonna
not the
bring
same
that
type
up.
of world
Yeah,
either. So it's just I wouldn't
right.
put them side by side. But ultimately, I definitely wanted it better for Zuko when he in season 3 when he left and he's like, "Hey, Zuko here," and he's practicing with the frog. I was like, "This is what I'm here for." Like, fuck the
So
Fire
after
Nation right
the
now.
eclipse, you didn't want it better for Guts. What was your experience with like Guts? Because like Guts's entire narrative is kind of centered around suffering, and never really finding that peace or that happy ending. Did you never want Guts to get better?
I wanted Casca to get better, and it
But
and it happened.
but like
That's
you
all I
can't
cared
think
about.
about Cassie getting better without the dynamic between her and Guts.
No,
So
their
could you
relationship
kind of
is really
explain
good,
that?
but guess whose side I care about more?
Costco.
And there it is.
And then Teddy.
There-
Right,
and
yeah.
there it
It's
is.
just it's just a little subjective
And
thing.
I don't remember how many times they said it. This is completely unrelated. He it's like he's carrying a huge chunk of metal. I'm like, okay, I get it. Stop saying that. Honestly, he's a good character. He's a great character. I don't dislike Guts. I'm just not in agreement that he's the greatest
Well,
I've ever
also
seen.
you
But-
when did you read the story? Because also it matters.
I
when
actually
you absorb the story.
I completely agree with you. I actually think that if I do a reread, my perspective will change because it happens with almost anything I revisit. Very like not often. If I revisit something like if I read when I was 16, then I'm gonna have the same opinion when I read it as a 26-year-old. That's just not the same.
Yeah,
just
it's
not,
usually never.
Yeah.
I usually experience the same thing, Naya. So here's a question for you. So I remember you said that it was, and this is something that Berserk does quite often, is push the boundaries in terms of edge. So whenever they start off with Guts was born from the womb of the corpse of his mother. He was really really edgy. You basically said you wanted him to stay raw. So where was like the balance between Guts being a complete savage and it being too edgy for you?
He's not. No, that scene. I just remember laughing like, oh come on, man, like, because wasn't there a line something where like he was born in death, so he can something. I can't remember how the line goes. I have to find it. There's a quote I remember, maybe I just heard it in the video or something, but with Guts, ultimately, I just don't like how he interacts with his new cast because he's being too nice. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't want it. I just don't want it. It's
Did
fine,
you like
though.
how he interacted with the Band of the Hawk?
No, not really. But again, it makes.
So do you want him to just like slap his people?
Yeah, like, what, you want him to be a
Yo,
come on now.
Are you
Okay,
sure?
Come
all right,
on now.
all right, nah, I can
But
only
it
de-
makes
I can only
sense.
defend you. I can only defend you.
But
for
it
one
makes
side.
sense.
Yeah.
But
I
that's the
can't-
thing,
I
though.
can't- I
It
can't do
makes
this,
sense.
man.
This is what should happen. This is realistic. This is good writing. It's just I'm sitting there like, oh no, now he's talking to these people. Now he sees them as friends. No.
It's just personal.
No,
It's just
no,
personal.
no.
At the end of the day, it's just preference to the story type.
Yeah.
It just he can I do this too. I can acknowledge when something is good writing and well done, but I still don't like it for whatever reason. It's not nothing particular. It's just like that's just not what I want to see. Like I said, like there are plenty of stories where I disagreed with the author's decision, but I can't say it was a bad decision. I just disagree. It's just not what I want.
Yeah, I think it's completely fine to think the way it is. I'm just trying to figure out. So, Naya, whenever you were reading Berserk, and I think maybe this is kind of like the source of it. At the core of it, Berserk is a story about revenge.
Yeah.
So I feel like most readers go into the story expecting a kind of flatter storyline with the character in terms of until he gets his revenge, and that isn't really the case with Berserk.
I would say
Maybe it's part of that had an effect.
what I would say I would expect is like I find that in a lot of Japanese writing this is true with a lot I would say shorter anime and visual novels love doing this. All the development for a character, or basically if it's like a mystery or something, they save all of the stuff for the very end, and in Machine Gun Fire, all the development in the last few episodes,
They
couple
do that, yeah.
chapters. With the Guts, it's been good. It's been gradual. There's been ups and downs. He's made 2 steps forward, some steps back. Just like a regular person would. Like you grow in some aspects and you might fuck something else up. Like all of it makes sense. I was way younger back when I read this, and I was a moron. So
How young were you, Naya?
I was out. But I changed. I'm like what's 2020? I was like, I'm in like 19 or something. But and I was an idiot. I'm still an idiot, but I'm not as much an idiot as I used to be. But shit, what was I gonna say? I had a good point and I completely lost it. Trying to do math.
Maybe
See,
it
math
wasn't a
fucks
good point.
everything up. Math fucks everything up.
Wow.
Oh, I was a Griffith stan when I first read Berserk. I'm not anymore, but when I first read, I was like, I can't believe he did this, and I can't believe he's having a Casca. But I'm not mad at him. I get it. But now,
What?
part of the reason that I keep going is I want to see him die. I don't want
Yeah.
that.
That's exactly right.
See,
Yeah.
we're
But
gonna
there
talk
was
about
there
that.
was a
We're gonna
there was a
talk about
time
that.
I didn't want that.
We're gonna talk about that. Also, who's the person who made the comment that it's a revenge story?
Drizzt.
Me.
Driv, I actually kind of disagree with you, brother. I don't think it's a revenge story. I think it's just a straight up tragedy, like on some damn near Shakespearean
Well, I'm using
shit.
the words that Miura said.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did he say that? Oh, well, you're right. I'm not
Yes.
gonna go there.
Why you gotta phrase it like that?
No, he right. Put me in my
Chris
place.
is such a sledgehammer in this shit.
Well,
Jeez.
I'm just telling you, you can argue based on whether or not you think Miura is right, but that was basically the entire theme and motivation for the story. Is that at its core, it is a story about revenge and Guts getting revenge on Griffith,
See,
which
okay,
is
'cause
which is the core mechanism that drives the entire plot.
See, I got lost on that because I actually want that. I actually want him to get his revenge, and I'll wait. But it's just that, the stuff with Skull Knight and him saying that, like, you may not get, she don't want what you want, and just certain like that. And it's a tragedy. And a lot of tragedies don't go the way you want. But
That's
no,
true.
like, I really want, because I hate Griffith, like, legitimately. Like, he's probably in my top 3, like, most hated characters from any medium, because to be
Top
honest,
3?
I hate him.
Damn.
Like, I don't even know how to express it in a
Griffith,
word.
no,
Like,
that's
I-
actually pretty
I
fair.
can't-
Griffith's probably one of the most hated characters of all
this is
time.
true.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
He's my
Because
most hated character.
okay,
for
so
sure.
like let's say JoJo for example. When Dio's being a bastard, that shit just funny
It
and
go.
raw.
Raw.
Yeah,
That
go.
shit's great.
It hits
I love people being evil for the sake of being evil. I don't like people try to fucking make Griffith into some sympathetic. Oh, he didn't have his arms
No,
and
that,
his
that that
legs.
that's
And this,
just not.
nah, hell no.
But
Fuck
I wouldn't
that
say
dude,
Griffith.
man.
I wouldn't say Griffith is evil for the sake of being evil, though.
Yeah,
No,
that's
he's
what I
not. No,
think.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he is. No, I'm
You're
saying
just saying
people
he's
like
generally
Dio, that's
tired of
wrong.
seeing that, and like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
yeah.
I feel like Yaba's gonna
sympathetic
do it with
background.
Muzan. I don't do it. I don't want to see that shit. I don't care.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't care. I don't care. I
Wait, so
really don't. Like, you
so
gotta go.
you actually like them being evil? Just so I understand your point, you like them being evil just for the sake of being evil.
Yes. I like
Okay,
twirl.
okay.
I
For
like
me,
twirl
yeah,
my
for me,
mustache.
because
I want the world
yeah.
to burn because
The kitten in the chair and everything like that.
no backstory.
Because I get so tired of authors trying to make me sympathize with this bad person. Like, at the end of the day, he's
Yeah.
a shit person. Stop trying to make me feel bad for him. No, he did these things because he thought it was the right idea. Right or wrong. He did it. Fuck them. He gotta go.
He said, "Fuck him."
and don't confuse that with them having a reason. Like,
Oh,
they think
Right,
they need
Thanos.
to break down the world and rebuild it, blah, blah. Not that. I'm talking about it's because when I was a child and my village was attacked and my father was carrying me and he dropped me and left me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Stop.
Right, yeah.
That wore out to me like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm tired of seeing it.
Yep. Fact, that's me too. Yeah, basically it's just like I'm tired of seeing that the same way I'm tired of seeing a character not being able to fight and just starting from like being a coward to being strong. I'm just sick of that shit, man.
Oh yeah.
Like, grow up. Just fight back.
just grow up.
Like you might back. Like you gotta at some point, and I think this in real life too. People victimize themselves too much. Like,
That's fair.
at some point, you got to take accountability for your actions. You're an adult. The life is unfair. You think everybody's having a good time? At some point, it's your fault, and that's my problem with Griffith. Yeah, I don't blame him for taking the deal necessarily, but my whole point is that
it could have been
it
avoided.
happened.
Right?
Yeah, it could have been avoided. It was his fault. He
This is true.
overreacted.
That's
He
fair.
completely
That's fair.
overreacted to him losing, and he made decisions that were not clear and level-headed.
Basically, by raping Charlotte, to be real with you.
Yeah, and then the part that makes me mad is he didn't get the king.
Charlotte was a
The
groupie.
king is the one that
That's what they
ordered
did.
all that happened to you.
Yeah, kill that nigga.
To me, if you're going to take your vengeance out on somebody, he should have been first on the list, and then maybe you could blame Guts and Casca secondary.
So
Well, it's a bit deeper than that.
I don't think his decision to sacrifice the Ben Hawks was based on revenge, though.
No, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
based on getting his body back. He was like, "Fuck it, I don't want to be like this no more. I want my dream," because his dream was above them anyway.
Yeah.
And so, like, his dream was all like he felt some remorse for doing the things he did. Because, like, I went back and talked about it and read a little bit parts of it. He actually did feel bad for some of the bodies he had to trample over, at least initially, to achieve his dream. But the dream was always the end goal, and he was willing to do anything to make that happen.
I mean, he even sold his cheeks for the dream, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Nah, that's conviction.
Right. Yeah.
You making a clap? I respect it.
I'd fuck Griffith.
I don't think Griffith got to go on Guts. Then after that, you start with Griffith. But I'll just say this last thing and then my last piece. I feel like a lot of you guys resonated with Guts on your initial read or whatever reread way more than I did. Whereas I have a tendency to not care about the main character that much, or I'm genuinely indifferent. That's nobody's fault. That's just how I am. That's how I'm wired. Like, name a series, I probably if the main character is my favorite, that's so rare. Like, think of Crows. Boyahara Michi's my favorite character. That doesn't happen often. Where the main character is my literal favorite, it just doesn't happen.
Well, I think it's actually kind of rare in general, Naya.
You think so?
I think a lot of main characters, at least in my experience, I'm not the most read person, but when it comes to manga, at least, books are a bit different because of the way they're structured. But usually in manga, for me, the main character, like, I have to like him to enjoy the series, but he's usually not, like, my number one favorite character.
He just has to be liked.
Yeah, because I think in terms of writing, it's easier to, like, have the brunt of, like, I don't know how to put it. There's, like, a lot of, like, more like the development and the rawness, I guess, is easier to put on, like, side characters or, like, the secondary characters rather than the MC. for just like general structure for what the author's trying to say, and that's probably why everyone feels that way. That's how I feel that way in like a lot of stories. But I just how I see it. Maybe I didn't phrase that
Yeah, for
correctly,
me,
but
it's like usually in series, like my characters, I can switch them back and forth. Whenever I first read Berserk and finished my
oh
first
yeah,
read through,
Thank you.
I don't think I had ever read a story before where, by a large margin, my favorite character was the main character.
Okay.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of the thing. It's like almost every single person that I've seen read Berserk automatically has Guts at number one.
Or top 2 or 3.
Yeah, top
Mhm.
2 or 3. There's like the rare person that will put like a random character at number one. But by and large, I think most people have Guts at number one, and it's not just like a random popularity thing, but because of like the quality that they see his character possessing. And
Which
I
I
think
agree
he just
with.
had
I think it's
different read
intentional.
throughs than a lot of other of us because I've had this same experience before. Like for instance, um, I think it also depends on the point in your life when you read the series as well. I
That
think that's actually kind
that
of
actually, if the like phase of life, the phase of life that you're in, it does matter. Because there
it
was a
matters
time
so
where that
much.
edge would have hit for me when I was like 16. Oh boy, I would have loved it.
Yeah, because like whenever I was younger, I might be way stupider than other people when I was younger, but I didn't like really understand characters when I was younger. I was kind of just like, yo, these guys about to fight. Is there a romance? Let's fucking get it. And that was enough for me to be invested. So like whenever I first read Hunter x Hunter, I was fucking wanting to kill myself. And like I had only read Hunter x Hunter once.
What the
Like and
fuck?
I was like, man, this manga is good, but like, oh fuck. And like I know now that if I know for a fact if I reread it now with my current thought process that I would love it way more.
Mhm.
So I
Well,
think that when you read it matters.
of course,
Absolutely.
I
No
agree.
of
question.
course.
I agree. I agree with
Um, uh, like the series that withstand me through like all of my phases of life are usually ones that end up being my favorite because it's like
Hmm.
I still feel the same way. I like obviously my approach is different because I'm a little smarter, I'm a little older, I've gone through a bit more, so maybe certain things hit me differently. But my overall feeling towards um the series will stay relatively the same. Shit, there's not many series I can think that do that, but
Hmm.
yeah. Jesus Christ, yo, I'm making sick. Okay, Griffith.
Fuck him. Piece of shit.
That fuck up, yeah. That man did everything wrong.
Top one most hated character.
For you, like in general.
Yeah, like once upon a time it was Sanji because I really, really fucking hate him.
Here we go.
But
Here we go.
Big O.
Here we go.
but
That's hate for a different reason
but
though.
right, like there's a couple characters that I absolutely despise, but they're really good characters. I just hate them because they're so good at what they do.
Uh huh.
And Griffith's one of them.
Yeah, we know.
The other character that's like that is Conky from Kingdom.
Okay.
That he's a fantastic character, but ooh, I need him to die too.
He's a savage.
He is
Go.
You love him.
great character,
You love him.
but I need him to die. And it's the same thing with Griffith though, because like on God, like when we get that panel of him dying in the most gruesome way possible, I'm gonna go buy some tap dancing shoes and go and tap dance on that motherfucker's grave. Like I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna find a way to do it because I hate so much. Ugh. Everyone just slurping him 24/7, except for my boy Rickert with that. Ooh, that slap! That shit makes me hype, man.
Slap the piss out of him.
He deserved it.
It was
Yeah.
like I still remember when I first saw that panel. I literally stopped reading because I was running around the room screaming because I was so happy. Like thank God someone is not slurping Griffith for the first time in like 200 chapters.
If you spoke to me a couple years ago.
That slap is just a transcendent moment, man. Let me tell you.
He said it transcends time.
Yeah.
Oof. But yeah, fuck Griffith.
I don't have anything really to add to that.
It was weird because how I felt about Griffith when I first like watched Berserk, I hated him with everything I had. Like with every fiber of my being, I hated Griffith. I hated everything about him.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you see the story, I think the part that made me confused the most is when Guts saw Griffith again. And it was almost as if it's like when he first got his new body and then he flied off with with Zod and every. Was it's Zod, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's odd.
Nosferatu Zod.
It was a weird interaction because I just felt like Guts would be more angry when he saw him, but Guts wasn't as angry as I thought he would be, and it made me kind of like take a step back and think for a second. I'm like, okay,
There's a
I
lot of
get,
emotions there.
yeah, there was a lot, but it's just like it just wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting like
Mhm.
full on rage, like, oh, I'm gonna kill this nigga, like forget about it.
Hmm.
But it made me
Although,
think, okay, Griffith's whole goal was his dream. That's what it was from the beginning. That's what all it ever was. And I think I just realized that maybe I just misinterpreted the character of Griffith itself.
Okay.
This man is just selfish. That's all it is.
he
He's
is
just
absolutely.
just the most selfish human being in the series, and that's all it ever was. So
Hmm.
he was always going to end up like this way. No matter what happened, he was going to sacrifice whatever is necessary, which is why it hurt Guts so much because Guts realized, oh, Griffith is actually just selfish. To him, I'm just a possession. And then when Griffith lost that possession that was Guts, Guts was like the guy that was going to take him to the top. He loses that. He throws his toys out the pram like a baby and basically rapes a chick as a result and then ruins everything. And then he gets an opportunity to finally be what he's always wanted to be. And he's like, oh, fuck all these niggas. Bet I'm here. And kill them all, rape Casca. And then next thing you know, it's like Griffith hasn't changed one bit. He's just been selfish from the beginning of the series and probably be selfish all the way to the end.
Hmm.
So now I understand why he did it. And to me, for me to say I hate the character based on just what he did for the eclipse alone would be wrong because there's more context.
Right.
So I don't. Griffith is kind of an enigma for me. I mean, I still hate him for what he did, but I get it.
You know, there's an interesting aspect to that when it comes to Griffith's selfishness that many people point to that defend Griffith, and that is during the Golden Age, whenever, there are lots of interactions between Guts and Griffith, but whenever Griffith asks Guts if he's being cruel, and Guts just says, no, do what you normally do. This is weird for you. And people use that to say maybe Griffith was actually self-aware and didn't particularly like the way he was going about things, but the only person who he felt he could confide in was Guts. And it kind of goes along with the idea that these characters, Griffith and Guts, while they were best friends, they both just kind of fucked each other up in terms of miscommunication and not being able to confront the other about, what the truth is. Like, whenever Griffith talks about what a friend truly means to him, but the real reality of the situation is that Guts was his only friend ever and his best friend. But he made it out to seem that like Guts' entire existence was something that was the antithesis of what he thought being a friend
Well,
meant.
he was also flexing for some pussy. Like, let's just be honest. That's what he was doing.
No, I think a lot of that was actually kind of genuine
No, it was
from his
to a certain
perspective.
it was certain degree, but he didn't think Gus was listening. One, and then two, he was kind of flexing. I mean, yeah, he was telling what he truly thought, but there wasn't no but. I do have one friend or nothing at the end of that. He was just saying what it was. But the truth is, like you said, he did have a friend. Even if he didn't want to admit it or not, he had a friend, or it wouldn't have damaged him so much. When
Right.
Griffith left, or Gus left, I mean.
Man, at the end of the day, I do agree. At the end of the, it is Griffith's fault for everything. People just like they'll always say that what he did is understandable. It's just not justifiable.
Yeah, that's where
Because
I am.
like that's the entire thing with like the Griffith did everything right versus wrong thing is people misconstrue like understanding his character with like the actual moral compass of what right and wrong actually are.
Hmm.
So they say he did nothing wrong, quote unquote.
Or what it means to you, because everyone's moral compass is different.
Right, yeah, and especially Griffith's because he misconstrues angels and demons to be the exact same thing.
I mean, that's true, but I also meant the person who's reading it, because I would
Right,
say
yeah,
that
exactly.
I would say my ethical code is not, it's not standard.
Yes,
So
no.
it's a little different. So a lot of things that happen where I go like, it's just the evil world we live in. It'd be like that. I don't. What do you want from me? Like, I'm not trying to have no muscles in my arm and legs. Y'all gotta go. So, Nelly, you haven't said anything really much. How you feel about Griffith?
If I'm being real, Griffith and Gus were my top two through the whole Golden Age because even though I
Mm.
like the Black Swordsman arc with seeing Guts and his reaction, and then moving on to Guts was like by himself, just doing his thing. And I was wondering where the story was gonna go. Then of course Griffith came in with the Band of Hawks. He was portrayed as some god, and then I was kind of that got me interested to see like okay, like let me see where it goes. You see like the next couple years of him. We got a lot of montages of him like going taking down like a lot of different like, battles, seeing his strategy, the way his group looks at him, stuff like that. All these little things made me fuck with Griffith. So and even the politics, the way he handled like he made sure to kill like certain people in like the political kind of battle he was in to give himself the advantage and give the Band of Hawk more success like that. And then that's why when like he lost, Guts left, and then he put himself to shambles. I was hurt myself because there was no need for him to do all that, but he's out here fumbling heavy, and then of course the clips happen, and I'm kind of like, yo, what's going on here? I'll still say even right now, because at the end of the day, he still succeeded, So it's like he still got his dream. He got his new crew dream, and then even recently they said he wants to chase even not just kingdoms, probably want to take over the different physical astral worlds as well. So he's still up there for me, but I definitely get like the hate towards him. It makes complete sense. I mean, he's just doing what he has to do. It is what it is.
Yeah. One thing I think that to kind of wrap those two up, I do like how their relationship starts, and I don't say ends where it is now. I kind of like the similarities and differences between them. Obviously, Guts is more like the black hulking, big ass fucking hunk of metal of a blade, or even just a bigger sword in general. Like before he got that, then you have Griffith kind of the all white, slender, kind of androgynous build, all that kind of stuff, all the contrast and comparison you do between them, where they started, and then how it all fell apart. I think Vince brought up a really interesting scene when he said one of his favorite scenes is seeing Guts feeding him. And I was thinking about that for a while, and I'm like, that is actually a pretty impactful moment. But yeah, they're both well written. They're both good. I'm not a huge fan of them either from a personal standpoint, but they cool. But now let's talk about the GOAT, Casca. What I'm here for. She's back. Oh my god, she's back, guy. I don't have to. You know that. Yo, what's that? Who did that edit with her eating a perk? Was it Nick? Her tongue's out eating the snow. I think someone put a perk there. That guy was edited.
That's wild, man.
Listen, it was hard for me to watch. Now, obviously, I didn't have to wait 20 years like some people did. I think for me it would have been like somewhere around 8, almost a decade. But Jesus Christ, like as much as I really think about like how Mira has handled all this, especially up until now, right? My favorite part is kind of the recent stuff when you're seeing them kind of piece her back together, and the fact that it's still really hard for her to to just deal with it and face, even just look Guts and talk to him and face him. Mm-hmm. To me, goes to show the hardship of PTSD from being sexually assaulted and things of that nature. Where it's like, bro, you don't have a flashback and you get over this shit. I'm tired of anime. You don't have a flashback and become a new person. This shit doesn't work like that. You struggle. Right. You struggle with these things. You go up, you go down. You might stay the same for a bit before you go up again. You might take 3 steps
for the
forward
rest of your life.
Exactly. And that's something that'll stay with you forever. So it's like I feel like he's handled that really well. But watching her be brain dead for years. That was hard.
I can't even imagine.
Brain dead longer than she's been. She's had a brain.
Yeah, it was difficult.
It's rough, yeah.
But because that was not my favorite. That's my favorite character. But she's back now ish. We getting there, training.
Ish.
she got the new threads. I'm fucking with it. So, but
do you like the new character art for Casca compared to the old one, or you like the old one better than the new one?
What's the difference?
Well, I guess you would have to do a reread then if you didn't notice the difference.
Unless you mean like the literal art style at the beginning of the series towards the end. Like, is that what you meant?
Compared to Casca, who had a brain, to Casca now.
Oh
It's like
no,
a pretty big difference.
I'm here with the short hair and a kind of more serious tone, not the ditzy wide eyes. I don't need that. I don't need that. But if you're talking about art styles, I'm old, so even like just like his more classic drawing of her, I have a preference to that towards like the new how she looks now. But it obviously looks better. But
I actually
yeah,
like the old style more as well.
yeah, that's how I am. I'm just a dinosaur. But you guys' thoughts on Casca and how her overall journey has been handled thus far? It's not over yet, so. And also, what do you think her role's gonna be like thematically, whatever the case? What do you think her role's gonna be moving forward? Cause that's something that I'm gonna think about it. I haven't thought about it yet, but that's kind of like where I'm trying to think of like what's next for her? What's next?
Well, we have to wait for the Midnight Child to show up to really understand what's about to happen.
And the next
Yeah,
chapter.
that was my
Yep,
that was my whole thing. Cause it's like, where's the she doesn't want what you want thing gonna stem from? Because we don't even know Gus's complete what he wants to do yet. So it's kind of interesting. Skull Knight's warning where that's gonna head. Is she just gonna like want to be a mother with the Moonlight Child? Like, what's going on with that? I have no clue,
Well,
to be honest.
I don't know. It really depends on. I don't know. We'll get into the Moonlight Child.
Well-
right
Well, I
later.
mean, there's a lot of things I could say about that if you wanted to.
Well, I just know for sure that she's not gonna want vengeance. She's over that. Like, she
Are
passed
we
it.
really sure about that though?
I feel like the
It's
way
Because
actually
she-
been
because
a
she-
big debate within the community whether or not whenever Casca gets her full brain back, whether or not she will resent Griffith for what he did.
I don't think
Some
she
people,
will.
and this is like the
I feel
greatest
like
fear
I
in the
don't.
community, is that she'll go back to Griffith.
Oh
Huh?
my god.
Whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
it's an
whoa!
actual concern in the
Relax.
community that Casca will go back to Griffith after
There's
she regains her brain, or even before like she does
After
that. Like
that
next
face he
time they
made,
meet,
that's
she'll be
crazy.
on his side, basically.
there's a legitimate
Yeah,
like
I
there's a
don't see that as an
legitimate faction thing.
impossibility.
Yeah,
To be honest.
well, there's a reason for why you would believe that to be the case, because even whenever Casca was brain dead, she would rather have been with Griffith than Guts. Because, well, obviously she had blocked out what Griffith had actually done to her. But the next time they see each other, it may be the same consequence where when she sees Griffith, it will replay the eclipse like it did whenever she actually physically saw Guts. But there's also the scenario that it will be the reverse.
Hmm.
And the real crux to that, according to Miura, is going to be the Moonlight Child. He said that basically the Moonlight Child is going to be the next key plot point for pushing the series into the end game. So there is going to be a huge, huge fuss in the next upcoming chapter with that, which makes sense because Griffith has infused his soul to the son of Casca and Guts, and that's going to be a great plot point, which we'll talk about in a couple of segments, I think. But for me, when it comes to the overall how well Casca has been done, since her rape from the eclipse, I feel like it's been mostly great, but there have been a few areas where it's been
Suspect.
questionable at best.
A little too much, like her
Yeah,
constantly being
because
bait.
yeah,
Oh,
it's the
that was
thing where
awful.
it's just like when you overplay something too much, it kind of loses the actual worry for it. So Casca has been in these fake rape attempts at least, trying to count,
6 times.
6 to like 8 times. And I can understand maybe like 2 or 3 at key character moments, but it is heavily overplayed. And even though in the world of Berserk and for like the time period they would be in, it's realistic more so than it is unrealistic. It doesn't
Sure.
make it more like it doesn't make it taxing on the reader every time it happens. Because I feel like there are other ways you could have explored that character in the same way where we had Farness have an absolutely god tier relationship with Casca, with the sister little sister dynamic. Overall, more positives than negatives. You might be able to make the argument that perhaps it took a bit long, about a little over 300 and
A
a little over
bit,
300 chapters.
a bit long, he says.
So it all depends though, because the way the arcs were structured out, it makes sense in the way they were, but the arcs were really, really long. And I just hope for the future, and for me, this is kind of critical to Casca overall because Casca was best girl until Farnese had just way more development than her because she's been around and been more relevant to the series. I feel like it's very critical for Casca in the future to basically reclaim that spot in terms of what it means for her character. I feel like she has to go through the changes and actual developments that her trauma requires in order for her to get over it. But I'm not sure if she's going to live. Because the original intent for Casca, she was supposed to die at the eclipse, and she was never supposed to have been a romantic interest for Guts. In the original, what she was supposed to be. Yeah, there are a lot of things that were not planned for Berserk that people don't realize were not planned.
Well, that's how any stories are.
Yeah, and it's just the way it happens. And Miura just realized that he having a romantic interest with Guts during the eclipse would make it a much better thing to carry on, and Casca from Miura's words was supposed to be a remnant of the eclipse, so Guts could never forget it.
Okay.
So now that we're moving forward towards the end with the final confrontation with Griffith, it's debatable on whether or not Casca will survive it. I feel like she should, just based on the merit that it's just been literally forever. But I really hope she becomes a more dynamic part of the story, like even when it comes to fighting, take down an apostle or something. But she should be like the reverse of what like Guts was for her, and this would go into the future because Guts is basically going to lose his humanity soon enough due to the foreshadowing, and I feel like Casca kind of needs to be there at the forefront of that.
Cast that shit away.
Why is he rubbing it? Yo,
throw that shit in the
yes,
sir.
Part, because it's like it kind of feels like Guts and Griffith have switched roles, because Griffith has come back and now he feels like the savior of the world and all this other stuff. Even though he created part of the damage that's happening, but he's supposed to be like this great unifier and stuff like that. And I've always said that like there may be a point in this story where like Guts is seen as like the main villain, because it's like Griffith is like uniting all these things. It's like people are actually living peacefully in his kingdom. Man basically forced like democracy and stuff to happen. But Guts don't care about all that, because he obviously we know why. So it's just like if Guts fulfills his role, fulfills what he wants to do and gets rid of Griffith, does that make him a villain in the eyes of the rest of the world at that point?
It will, in the sense, because Griffith is obviously supposed to be portrayed as the Antichrist, and the Antichrist, in biblical terms, he's basically a false shepherd. That's exactly what Griffith is. So it'll be that way until it's revealed, like his true intentions, whenever the God Hand, or like they fully make whatever the fuck their plan's supposed to even be.
That's actually a very interesting point, Juris, because when I was doing like just a refresh before the stream, I was rereading like the whole prophecy and the notion of the Falcon of the Darkness. That was like the real prophecy from the Holy See.
Right.
That he would be the angel of darkness to basically bring about the age of darkness, which was like the connection of the astral world and everything like that. But now the pontiff that sees Griffith, he's kind of put it in their minds that he's actually the Falcon of Light and he's the actual savior of the world. When you have Fantasia, basically the Fantasia arc born, so it's just like he really is actually the Antichrist. Like the whole thing is to set up Griffith as the Antichrist, where he's actually there. He's actually just pure evil, but people think he's the savior. So
it's been very well done, and this is actually going to go to my criticism of Griffith. As I said before, Griffith is my third favorite character. I love Griffith, but for me, with the Antichrist theme, it kind of felt like it took a lot away from Griffith in terms of like how enjoyable of a character he is to actually experience on panel, because there's so many moments where it's basically just winking him about how awesome he is and how everything's going great, which is fine. But there's not really that depth to him anymore that there was before. It's all been taken away with his humanity.
Would you write that up to his kind of ascension?
And it makes total sense because like that was his entire purpose.
But you mean it's just not as enjoyable as a reader to experience?
Yeah, right. Because like you're used to Griffith being an actual dynamic character, but now he's actually kind of more flat. Which is why I'm hoping in the future that this will actually take a reverse. I think it would make sense for Griffith to kind of reverse back to what he was before, once he realizes that his dream isn't actually what he wants.
Or just when he confronts Guts again in that final end
game. Well, that's kind of the thing, is that like originally Griffith realized that his dream was meaningless. Whenever he got captured after he did the nasty with Charlotte, um, he got tortured by the little gimp guy, and in the prison he was like, "This is all worthless," because Guts wasn't there with him. And the entire crew that he has right now is just a replacement for Guts and the Band of the Hawk, the thing that he gave up before.
Yeah, they
Even
literally
Zod.
are.
Zod is the apostle form of Guts, but to a lesser form. He has no equal still. He's going to find that even at the end of the road, whenever he's Femto, is that there's still no true equal for him. There's no one to understand him. I think that's going to be a key part when it comes to the dynamic between them that will be established again later on. Because if he just continues to be the Antichrist, whenever it comes to like the actual revenge story between Griffith and Guts,
Yeah, it's not interesting.
it's basically going to be Guts versus guy who doesn't feel anything.
Yeah. And that's not engaging, especially from an emotional standpoint,
Right.
considering their history. So, I'm okay with that. Like kind of like him kind of reverting. Jesus Christ, bro! I am getting sick. Are there any other notable characters you guys feel like just mentioning for any reason before we kind of hop into the Moonlight Child and stuff?
Godo's a goat.
He is. Love
Chich
that
is
man.
amazing. Jill, great child character.
Need more Luke.
Luca Raw.
Rosine is
Luca's
actually a
great.
really good villain.
Tell Luca I'm coming through.
Yeah, Luca, best girl.
I'm in there.
Cap.
I'm in there. No protection. All right, so for this question, what do you guys think is the significance of the Moonlight Child? What do you think is gonna happen with that plot point? I didn't know. I haven't read any of the interviews and stuff, so I didn't know that he already had planned it to be like the focal point of the. You said of this upcoming arc. You said.
Yeah, basically, Berserk seems to be heading into its final arc.
Endgame. Okay.
Yeah, endgame. It should be heading into its endgame now, and he basically just said that the Moonlight Child is going to be like the key for reigniting, basically, like the bringing together Guts and Griffith again to some degree. Like it's going to bring that back together into the plot. So for me, this kind of goes back to something you have in the show notes. I think it's kind of ambiguous what's going to happen with the Moonlight Child because, once again, obviously from the start he was not planned, but it was something that was put in later. Like even though like in the first chapter we see like the demon baby that was never supposed to be the demon baby, he just made it later on, which is kind of funny. But there has to be something in order to make Guts a believable contender to fight Griffith. Because right now, even though Guts can like beat almost every single apostle, bar from maybe like Zod, he can't tackle a God Hand. Like those are actual like gods.
Yeah, there's no chance for that.
There has to be some realistic way of making him a contender for Griffith, and the only way to do that would be to like use the Beherit. And even then, like all the apostles are nothing compared to the God Hand. But like, if Guts is already better than all the apostles, and like he gets some kind of like weird transformation on a similar plane to like what Skull Knight has right now, it might make it more believable. But the Beherit, I think, is going to activate, whether it's at the expense of the Moonlight Child being sacrificed, Casca,
Casca.
Puck,
No,
something like
not
that.
Pug.
Not
Don't
Pug.
do this to
And
me.
you-
I don't.
Well, the reason I could see Puck actually being sacrificed, memes aside, is that people assume that because Puck has basically been memeing the Beherit the entire story, that there's no way it could be for him. But for me, this would be a neat way of redeeming his lost character, because Puck was probably one of like the best creature companions in any series ever, up until right around like the beginning of Falcon Millennium Empire. Then Puck became Chestnut Puck 24/7,
Yeah.
where his relationship with Guts literally just went to nothing, and he no longer gives a shit about Guts at all, which goes against everything that had been their journey up until that point in time. So a way to humanize him again would to actually make him sacrifice himself, and this would kind of go back to maybe
take Puck away
like a
from him.
weird connection with Chich, how Chich sacrificed herself for Guts. Maybe there's kind of like a double tragedy when it comes to Guts' relationship with like elves.
Okay.
So, but that's just for me to find some way to bring Puck back to his greatness. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna actually happen. I think the Moonlight Child's a more likely scenario.
So I feel like there still has to be more though with the Bailet though, because even if we use Skull Knight as a comparable transformation, Skull Knight still can't touch Femto though. So
Yeah.
to me, there has to be something more that either we haven't been introduced to yet, or something that we haven't really paid as much attention to, which I honestly don't know what that would be, to be honest.
Well, there is still one notable race we have not met yet. That would
Oh,
be
the
the dwarves.
dragons? No, that
The dwarves that made the Berserker
that's
armor.
yeah.
Well, that's true.
We have not met them. We've met the elves, and the elves have been foreshadowed and brought up since the beginning of the series. And there have been word of dwarves for a while, but we haven't seen them, not even in Elfheim.
Maybe Rickard meets him.
Rickard can meet them. Rickard might also be responsible for crafting like a new, dragon slayer or something like that, so that he would kind of fill the role of what Godo was. Because after the time skip when they come back from Elfheim, I feel like Rickard's going to be like in final form.
He's gonna have hella bitches and everything. He's gonna be the goat.
That's my guy.
He goes slapping again.
What do you guys think?
So, okay, on the thing with the Moonlight Child, I actually had a conversation with my friend about this, and we kind of, I think the way we're both looking at it is that the Moonlight Boy is is like the main link that links Griffith to like his humanity, because the way
Right.
I read it is that like the Moonlight Boy, it comes off as like it's Griffith's physical like body under certain conditions, right? Because like it just feels like Griffith can only show up in like the real world, um, under like very specific conditions or whatever, and that's like his only like mortal body, if that makes sense. So like I think the way it's gonna end up playing out is that like they're gonna have to find out something about the Moonlight Boy whenever the next full moon. So Casca and all of them are gonna run into the Moonlight Boy on the next full moon, and then that's gonna determine basically like how they're gonna kill him. Because I think the Moonlight Boy is like the biggest key to all this, and but somehow they have to like figure out how to use the behelit. But I don't know how. I don't know. I haven't decided or don't really know how that would play out. But on the Moonlight Boy, it's like that's how I feel at least. It's like Griffith's link to humanity because that's like his flesh in the physical world.
Well, he already has like quote unquote actual flesh in the physical world, but like the way I kind of interpret it is like to give it a decent comparison, it's kind of like Onigumo's heart for Naraku in Inuyasha, where like Naraku was reincarnated due to the combination between demons and man, whereas
Mhm.
Griffith was created by the combination of all of the sacrifices plus the corpse or the dying body of Guts and Casca's son.
Yeah.
So the son part of Guts and Casca is like the emotion or the thing that's holding Griffith back from being completely emotionless, because he still gets his body acts on its own to save them at critical points. So when he gets rid of that, he'll be like final form, quote unquote.
Yeah. Huh.
Jay or Vince, do you guys want to chime in?
Oh shit.
Oh, they're muted right now. Oh, okay.
I don't.
I
I
have
was out here
nothing to
talking on
add.
mute. That's crazy.
It's interesting to listen to that stuff. But I can talk a lot, so I just like hearing other.
I mean, I don't really have much to say just because the Moonlight Boy has always been like an enigma to me. I know his importance to Guts. I don't know if anyone's really thought about this, and I'm probably wrong, because I know that little demon child that was eaten by that egg nigga, that nameless apostle, to basically create Griffith's new body. I'm assuming that was like the unborn child of Casca and Guts, or if I'm not mistaken. But I always thought the Moonlight Child also had a connection with Guts and Casca to a point where he may be like the non-corrupted version of their child. So I don't know if anyone like can correct me on that, but that's just a thought that I always had. But
I always thought that too, bro. To be
yeah,
honest.
that these features seem like they'd make sense, except he doesn't have the nigga features that Casca would have. But I would like to say the fact that he can actually reach out to Guts in his enraged form when basically the Beast of Darkness is basically overtaking his psyche. I think he might be the key to Guts actually working in unison with the Beast of Darkness to actually like fully access the power of the armor itself and the Beast of Darkness to take him to a level where if they both combined, he'd actually be able to take on one of the God Hand. So I think that may be a way the Moonlight Boy could be used. But other than that, I don't got anything else.
I think that when the Beast of Darkness comes up, I think that the Beast of Darkness is going to be unleashed soon in some like epic battle whenever the Moonlight Child comes back up, because I feel like something bad's going to happen. And it's only a matter of time because the foreshadowing's been there before the Beast of Darkness absolutely unleashes itself, and it's going to basically destroy the rest of Guts' body. Because every time he uses the Berserker armor, he loses more and more of his humanity. So much like Skull Knight, who's already lost all of his senses and somehow gained them back, it's only a matter of time. The next time he uses it, whenever the Beast of Darkness is unleashed, which should be the next plot point, Guts should lose his vision, sight, hearing, and basically everything that makes him a human.
Oh, I was gonna piggyback off of what is it Jay? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said when you said that, and I also think because I had basically the same theory as you, and when I also linked it to like when Skull Knight was like she may not want the same thing because it's like if Guts wants to use the kid basically to control his powers, that's still Casca's kid, so she may not want to do that because mothers don't want stuff like that to happen. I just thought of that as something like outside of the box that didn't necessarily relate to her dealing with Griffith. I was like, it could just be something with the Moonlight kid that like she don't want to be involved the child in the with stuff like that because it's still her child at the end of the day.
Do you guys think it's possible that Griffith would leverage the Midnight Child to get Casca away from Guts? I don't even know why he would want to do that, but I could like
anything's possible with him. He could do anything.
Yeah, because Dritz brought up earlier the idea of Casca going back to Griffith, and that might actually be a plausible way of introducing that plot line so that it doesn't necessarily make her look awful. You know,
she goes back to
the trauma that she puts. Yeah, considering she would put the well-being of that child above her own obvious, qualms with Griffith, assuming she even remembers the next time she sees him. But I don't know. I just thought maybe that's an interesting way to kind of create the opening for that to happen, create more conflict for Guts.
I don't like it. I don't want to see it. I'm gonna just snap.
No, I'm not saying any of us would like it.
I know. Don't worry, I got you.
Because like we all know something horrible is about to happen again, and I don't know if it's going to be anything Eclipse level. Because God forbid if it's that or even worse, I don't even know.
Oh my God! If it's Puck, please don't do it.
But like, I don't know. I just thought that was just some food for thought.
Leave Puck alone.
We need our chestnut.
All right, let's talk about the Skull Knight. I mean,
Goat Knight.
Goat Knight, big facts.
How you guys feel about the Skull Knight in general? But
I
want you to talk about if you think he's being either overused and or used poorly because he shows up in most arcs and during or after the fact, and he aids maybe a bit too much, not enough, whatever. However you feel.
By the way, I brought up this point.
He did.
Okay.
It's his question.
That's interesting.
Nah, I can't. I think he's being used properly. Cause honestly, let's be honest. I don't know how Guts gets out half the situations he does if Skull Knight's not there. Not realistically.
Well, like, maybe that's part of the problem though. If Skull Knight's there all the time to bail him out, I don't know.
Even there at the time. That's the thing.
At a certain point, though, the realism in the series does get lost a little bit because the fantasy aspect gets thrown in. I mean, like, what is Guts supposed to do against giant demons that they make super formidable? Like, it's not like these guys are some jokes. Like, most of the things that he's fighting are ridiculous. He shouldn't last 3 seconds against most of the things that he fights. He's already, like, Guts himself is already way above the average human.
Oh, yeah.
And he can't do anything against these things. So I think
he
Skull
got a
Knight,
gun arm.
He's raw.
Yeah, and it's just for me, Skull Knight, I've always been more interested to, like, what he is. Because it's just like, okay, so we know the Apostle and all that are there. But, like, how long has Skull Knight been around? And, like, what's his true purpose? Like, what is he? Like, I hope it's not, like, some time shit. Because I hate stuff like that. Because it's always just too convoluted. I don't really like getting into that.
Immortal. Guts has
That's-
commented before that the feeling that Skull Knight gives off is similar but different to the same thing that apostles give off.
Yeah, but he's like opposing them, so it's just always interesting.
Yeah, he's
to go, like,
opposing them, but like even his presence still activates the brand for Guts.
I also think it's very interesting that every time he eats one of the behelots, it's like is it giving him strength, or is it just like is adding on to his sword? I'm trying to remember exactly
He's
how
adding it
felt.
onto
It's
his
giving him
sword.
indigestion.
He's just really good at swallowing.
I just find that whole, because there's still not very much known about the behelots besides the fact that it summons the god hand.
right?
the-
Yeah. See, that's my thing. All that fantasy aspect, cause tying those things together. That's why I don't know. I don't really know how to.
I think
about
he's
it.
the key to that, though. I think he's the key to understanding that lore in itself, because it seems like he has a clear grasp on the whole structure of the god hand, the behelots, and the causality itself.
Right. Yeah, he seems very in tune with that. Even like he's more in tune than Flora is, because whenever Guts asked Flora what the Beherits were, she basically just said it's just something deep within the astral plane. That's something that's greater than what we can understand. Put it into the world, which is like the idea of evil, essentially.
Scoordinator.
They ugly.
They are diabolical.
Yeah, but when it comes to Skull Knight, like the reason I posed the question is that I love Skull Knight, but much like it is before, whenever it comes to with like Casca's, every time she's like in trouble, it's always going to be some rape meme. The same thing it is with Skull Knight, because Skull Knight's awesome, but you can basically predict exactly when he's going to show up all the time, because it's literally every single arc. I think it's actually every single arc in the series, aside from the Sea God, where Skull Knight shows up at the end or during it to save Guts.
Yeah.
And even though it makes sense, because he's basically using Guts
yeah.
for his own goals, while also helping Guts, because they're basically parallels of one another. Still though, it's like the suspension of disbelief. Like he should basically like be in the crew, but he's not in the crew, but he's there every single arc kind of thing. So it's just like a weird aspect where it can kind of like
So
it
you're
can kind of
basically
get rid of
saying
the
he's
sense
from
of like
Noblesse? That's
danger.
what you're telling me. He's
What's that?
basically he's basically from Noblesse, where he shows up, you know the arc is over.
Well, yeah, basically he shows up where like everything's gonna be okay, or like he's gonna say something about causality, and then
So would you
I love it.
prefer
I
that
love it.
he didn't keep writing Guts into these situations where the Skull Knight has to bail him out, basically? Like,
well, here's the thing. So with Skull Knight, like it's more like he's a really big plot device, because Guts and them don't actually know what the fuck they're doing.
They really don't.
So like every time he shows up, he's like, "You should go to Elfheim." Like even though Puck suggested Elfheim, he's like, "If you go there, there's someone there that could actually restore Casca to blah blah blah." And he's like a giant. Like every time he shows up, it's like, I'm here to get you reactivated into the plot or give you some foreshadowing.
it's like pay 5 rupees and know what to do next on your quest.
Yeah, so like in that sense, like it still makes sense, but it can still get a little bit like tiresome, because
Yes.
he's always going to be there.
Yeah.
I feel that, but like I said, it's just like
And I still love him, but it's just like it's one of those things.
I feel you. I understand. It's just like I said though. It's just like what is he supposed to do at some point? It's like what Guts can't fight these things, like until they figure out how to use the armor and stuff. So it's just like he always needs somebody to pull him out. Cause who else is gonna do anything?
Well, it would just be nice if they were just somehow able to get out of their own accord, maybe once or twice, and then like when it's like way over their head, Skull Knight's like, "I'm here randomly."
Or like if they would learn something on their own without him having to tell them.
Or maybe if there's one situation where it's like instead of Skull Knight showing up, Skull Knight is doing something else in another part of the world, confronting someone.
Okay, now I agree. Now I agree with that one. I would say, but them figuring stuff out on their own, no chance. They are not that smart to be doing that.
I mean, they're smart. They're just up against the odds, basically.
Like the whole, like you said, just all the cosmic shit that be going. They got no clue. They're not gonna be able to figure none of that stuff out. That's beyond them. It's above them now. As the one meme says, it's above them.
He looms on a hill, then he bounces.
He basically he has like the most epic entrances. Like he just comes in on his horse that has like jetpacks on its hooves. which is like fucking insane. I love that. it's, I mean, he's my goat, but I mean, it'd be
Lucas
nice to
might
mix
be
it up a little bit every once
bounces,
in a
bro.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel that though.
I understand. I understand the conflict of I really like this thing, but it might I would prefer maybe not for it to happen all the time or as much. I get that. I'm there all the time.
Turn the Skull Knight up.
Turn it up.
Where should we go? Pay 5 rupees to unlock the next one. All right, so let's talk about the new crew versus the old crew. I mean, just in general, just generally, how do you guys feel about the new crew? The new
There's
cast?
more kids.
And add to that, you did ask this Dritz how you feel that he handles the younger characters. So if you guys want to talk about that, feel free. But yeah, I kind of already spoke on it. I have a preference to the older ones. I don't know if that's true though. As more that I just wish guys would have been so nice to these new niggas. But I don't know. I'll think about it.
He wasn't nice to us.
Somebody, true. Somebody go. I think about it. Actually, Nelly, you go first. You're not talking that much.
There you go.
For the new crew, I said like, because I feel like individually they got their own character arcs, don't like stories, and we actually knew them before they became a crew, so it was cool overall growth between.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
With Serpico in Conviction. Them joining in, seeing Vanessa's backstory, seeing how she handles the big sister with Captain meeting Cherokee, all that stuff of the old crew. I did like them as well, but I like them more as a group than like individual.
Okay.
And even though I like the old crew, Pippin, all of them, they're all up there. But it's like with the new crew.
I was about to say Scottie Pippen.
Yeah. With the new crew, like I mentioned, like Fernet, Serpico. I like them. Like I see them more of like individual characters, and I like where they. So I feel like that's an improvement in his part. Not necessarily that the old crew is bad. He improved with like human each individual over time. That's.
Definitely. What are your thoughts?
I think the crews are about the same.
Okay.
Well, actually, I like the new crew more because we spent more time with them, and I think it's just like, I think the new characters are more interesting because we have Farnese and Serpico combined. Like, just those two alone, I like a lot to the story, in terms of like, because like everyone else is like we know more about them. And I'm more attached to them now to the new crew than I am with like the old crew, because like they were there and I liked Judo and some of the other dudes. So I think Judo's like the one guy that stood out to me from the original Band of the Hawk. But like everyone in the new crew, I like a lot. So they're all like more emotionally or like more present in the story. And feel like they're better utilized, I guess.
New crew better simply for the fact that they don't have Corcus in their crew.
Yo, Corcus is a goat.
Like bro, like on me, there is no way I wouldn't have killed Corcus. On me.
What?
Like,
dude, I like Corcus, man.
Man, you like the guy who's constantly talking trash?
Yeah, I like
The
Corcus.
entire fight.
Yeah.
Man. Nah, man. I would have slipped up, bro. I would have tripped him. He fell
The
out of
thing is,
the
like,
mountain.
Corcus
No.
had his own character arc where, like, he started off as, like, being that, like, kind of meme asshole guy, but he actually cared about Guts. He just was not good at showing it.
I ain't trying to hear that, brother. He had to go.
Dude, no, Corcus
I'm not gonna lie, yo. I've hated Corcus since day one. Like I'm not like Corcus.
Of course.
Bro, like, on
Corcus
me,
some
I respect your
trash,
opinion,
boy.
but as they say on Twitter, I'm not reading it. He gotta go.
Corcus is a bitter nigga. That's it. That's all I've known him is just a
Because
bitter nigga.
he gave up on his dream. You need to do what he doing and just follow directions. Get out of here with that, bro.
And Dritz, don't treat this as like an educated opinion. Like this is literally just me being
No,
Me.
dude,
Yeah.
it is the most popular opinion in the Berserk fandom to have everyone hate Corcus, so I'm already aware.
I'm indifferent. I'm
I heard a
indifferent on it.
controversial opinion too. I didn't
Everyone
like
hate
Serapico.
Corcus, man.
I didn't like Serapico that much either.
Oh, really?
Sir
I was
Pico had
indifferent.
drip
Yeah,
though.
I mean he's okay. That's fine and dandy, but he was annoying. I was like,
In what
bro, I
way?
know you.
Well, yeah,
I
how
know
was he?
I know you see Farnus as your guardian angel. I get it. Cool, but brother, please stop being this third wheel, bro. Get out of the way. Let Farnus cook. She trying to get guts, and you in the way, brother. Move. Like she, man, he cock block hard as shit, bro. Please move, bro. Just get out the way. I'm not trying to see,
So you just try to make him step aside and watch this girl get a cheek clap right in front of him? Is that what you want to do?
That's his half sister. Move.
It don't matter
Time is
though.
up.
It's medieval
Yeah,
times, bro. You think they cared about
you're
that?
right. It don't
It's
matter,
medieval
'cause she
times.
don't care about him. Because she don't care about him like that. Stop cock
I mean,
blocking.
there's character development.
I mean,
bro.
he's
You never
not
know.
really cock blocking because, I mean,
Nah, move.
Casca's cock blocking the most.
Okay, don't let Farnus cook. Okay, let Farnus cook.
Yo, why does he say
Put
that?
that- put that
Stop,
on-
bro. Just stop.
Say it like that.
Farnese
You
cook.
need to put
I'm
that
about
on a
start
t-shirt.
saying that, yo.
If Farnus is putting in work, let her cook, man. She in the kitchen. Let's go.
She is
I have no
one
idea
of
what
the
this guy's saying.
He said basically, let her hoop. Let her
Yeah,
keep hooping, basically.
Let man. Farnus out here trying to put up 50 points a game, and here he come.
Come first team all defense.
Yeah. In the way, bro. Let her relationship with
Fuck.
Guts get better. Let her relationship with Guts get better. Let her be number one girl. He out here in the way just because he hold a sword all cool. Get out of here with that. I ain't trying to hear that.
I mean, he got with the wind. How do you sylphs? Whatever they call the wind sylphs.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. He needs to help. He want to be helpful. Help Guts fight a demon. If he can do that, he cool.
I
Get out
mean,
the
he
way.
helped with the what are the trolls?
Nah,
He helped with the
yeah,
trolls.
well,
Yeah, he
Well,
helped.
none of them are at the level where they can fight apostles.
Exactly. So get out the way and let Farnus cook.
Honestly.
He can't do that.
Let Farnese cook.
That's gotta be the
Up
name
in the
of the
kitchen,
stream.
cooking and whipping. Yeah.
That's gotta
Man,
be the name of the
look,
stream.
There are people out here helping Gus fight God hands. He could fight him for it. But until then,
For the one time. Just for the
The
one time.
Serpico versus Guts fights are awesome, though.
They are pretty good.
Gus didn't try to kill that boy.
Of course.
That's too funny.
That's like when your nephew trying to run up on you or something. Like, bro, 10 years too early. Get out of the way with this, man. I ain't trying to do this right now.
You'll never win.
On me.
You
Man, like,
never win.
Gus got one eye and a
You're in
gun,
a wheelchair
bro, and
now.
he's still trying to fight him.
I have a
Move
gun.
out the way.
That's where you fucked up. Anyone else on the cruise? Because the next topic is the one I kind of want to talk about. Because I'm that guy.
Is this?
So-
I think I know what this is. If I know Naya, I know what it is.
No, I'm just saying. So that's why I want to
Just
talk
saying.
on the cruise.
Just go ahead to the new topic. I think we're interested now.
All right. So did Berserk peak at the Golden Age arc? That's a popular opinion. You'll see a lot of people say where it's like they were the most engaged. Basically the build up for everything that's happening now in present time, the build up, the backstory, the characterization for some of these characters, this and the other, the history was far more engaging to them than anything that happened after the fact. I am in that camp, but I'll add this: the Golden Age arc to me was how I was the most engaged, and it's my favorite part of the series. But I think it's at a very high level that even though I don't think any arc has interested me as much, it's still at a high level. Like if like this arc is like a 9, everything is like it's going from like 7 to 8, 7 to 8, 7 to 8. It's not like it's bad or anything like that. It's just not. There isn't any other arc that has had me as emotionally invested as the beginning. So, do you agree with the sentiment or not?
I think it's Cap.
I disagree as well.
Speak on it.
Okay, actually, hold on. I'm trying to think how I put this argument. Someone else go first. Let me think.
So,
Okay.
Naya, what are you specifically saying? Are you trying to say that?
The beginning
Golden
is the
Age-
most interesting part to me, personally.
Well, I don't think there's really any debate to that because the Golden Age is the best arc in the series. Now,
Actually,
A lot of
from
people will not
That's
would
also
disagree with that. Though.
yeah, so from my experience, the people who have like read the series once and like who are reading it for the first time, the Golden Age is their favorite arc most of the time. But there is like unlike other series where there's like a consensus, like a majority consensus of what the best arc is. If you're in the fandom, I haven't really seen like a consensus. Like most people like waver between Golden Age, Conviction, and then Falcon. So it's a bit ambiguous, but it would make sense for most people to be invested the most in the Eclipse due to what the Eclipse actually is. Like
right.
Golden Age ends off with probably like one of the most like famous things in like in the entire medium. So this makes sense. I guess it depends though, because a lot of people are actually, I would say like it's half and half. A lot of people are interested in the journey afterwards, and people are interested in the journey of how he got there. For me, my favorite arc is the Golden Age, but it's always like a toss up between I don't really know, but I default with the Golden Age because it's kind of like the first in line to describe everything.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is though, something can peak, but the rest of it can still be really good. Like just because it peaked at the Golden Age, if you believe
my
that.
opinion.
Yeah, like just because it peaked at the Golden Age doesn't mean you don't think the rest of it is like an 8.
The end
Yeah,
game could,
it's fair to say
the
it
end
peaked.
game could be better. You know, like it's not done.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Now it's
that
never
was
gonna
the point.
end, but I'm just saying theoretically, if it did conclude, the
Yeah,
possibility
theoretically.
exists.
In an alternate universe where it happens, then yeah.
On
you know,
Earth 2, where it's done already.
No, Earth 90.
Earth 90.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
it's kind of hard to argue against it because to start off the series for Berserk, it's like 9 chapters for the Black Swordsman arc, and then maybe the longest flashback in manga history, like 73 chapters, and it's like, you know, everyone loves the Golden Age, so it's I mean that's like an amazing arc. So I think it's fair to say that Berserk kind of like that's like its quote unquote most universal best arc, but I feel like they're all still pretty quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and also
Yeah.
peak of popularity too. I mean, most of the coverage, like you said, is on the Golden Age. Most of the stuff we have outside of the manga is just about the Golden Age. So it's
The
kinda
Golden
tough.
Age, when it came out, was not very well liked.
Yeah, well,
When the
hey,
eclipse happened, Japan was fucking furious.
but
that
they
really?
hate they're contrarians, bro. I
They
swear,
hated it.
I promise
It
you, I
actually
promise
flunked.
you.
Japan's taste is garbage anyway.
It's garbage.
It's actually
Yeah,
garbage.
they always
They stink.
like
Fuck
the
white
opposite of
rice.
what you think.
Wow.
On me.
So we're back to this.
He's not wrong. Because they always like the opposite of what you think they're gonna like. It's like what everybody else in the world likes, they hate it.
Yeah, they're
gonna
just like
love-
they don't really like it that much. They're just like whatever,
they
dude.
like live on and stuff like that. Whatever.
They're gonna sit
Kick
there
off.
and tell me my mom turned into a light bulb when lightning struck my house. Volume 2 is the great. Like, no, shut the fuck up talking to me. I don't want to hear it. I don't.
They like want the same stuff over and over again.
That too.
Yeah.
I'm just not with them. I'm just not. But I have a tendency to like series where, like a lot of times people when they recommend something to me, they always tell me be patient. It's a slow start. That's the best thing you could tell me. I don't like I'm always wary when something starts off too good or too strong or I'm invested too quickly. I just don't think it's gonna hold up. Right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's actually a good point. That's actually a good point.
Because I feel like a lot of those type of series, what happens at one point is they're trying to recapture that former glory, and they spend the latter half of the series trying to relive former glory. It doesn't work out the same. I feel like, as much as I don't give a fuck about Naruto, I think Naruto had a really strong start with the shooting exam being so early on. And shooting exam to me is the best part of the series, right? Yep. So nothing else after that to me was nearly as engaging. I think of I don't know what's the name for the first arc in Pop Neverland, the Escape from Gracefield or whatever. That arc was way too good because I don't think anything after that is nearly as engaging. I don't care.
To be fair, actually no. To be fair, Goldie Pond was pretty good.
But I don't think it was nearly as interesting as like.
It was still cool though. I mean,
it was more psychological warfare in Gracefield. I'll definitely say that. But in terms of like just like discovering more about the world and then actually, I mean, this is not a Promise Neverland, stream, so I'll just keep this short. But yeah, just in terms of exploring more about the world and the actual danger of what's outside these plantations, I thought Goldie Pond was amazing. I really thought it was great.
I didn't like it.
I didn't actually get to the end of Goldie Pond because I had caught up to the series and then
I didn't.
I
I didn't
Yeah.
care anymore, right?
back up.
He lost interest.
Well,
He
I
was
just
like,
this thing was like I'll catch up to series and like I just will forget to keep on pace with them
Yeah.
when it's week to week and I'll just like let it pile up and I'll be like whatever I'll get to it later.
Yeah, my problem was though it was just I felt bad for the Promise Everland mangaka because I was always like I gave the first arc a 10 because I literally walked in knowing nothing about the series and was completely shocked and surprised. And I was just like after I read it, I was just like, yeah, I'm like the other parts could be good. They're never gonna just.
I mean, yeah, it had a really great start. There aren't that many. I can't name too many series where like the first 100 chapters is just like amazing.
See, I don't really like.
You just
but, like,
upset
I
the
don't-
entire
I
One
don't
Piece
really
community.
Like that.
Yeah, no, I would not call the first 100 chapters of One Piece amazing in any stretch of the imagination.
I would, because Don Krieg's in it. But
That's
Don
fact.
Creed the GOAT.
That's what no.
Keep saying?
But yeah. So with that, like I'm saying, it's just I'm always kind of worried when something starts off with a bang. I'm like, I don't like this. But when it kind of takes its time, like you know how much like shit Reborn gets for those 61 chapters. I'll take it.
Man,
The
never
the daily family arc, whatever it's called, daily life arc. I have no issues with it. I love it. No issues. I had no issues. And then when they wanted to when shit the fan and they got serious, I was in there.
I think part of me is also kind of like that mindset, Naya, is that like that is literally the like every single story with webtoons. They start off fire and then like immediately the second arc it just turned to like trash.
Or they fizzle out somewhere in the middle. They have this tendency of losing direction completely. They don't even know what they're doing. Just end.
I agree.
Well, let's hope
Not what
Uruchian
webtoon.
doesn't lose direction though.
Nah, chill out.
All right, bet.
Chill out.
But yeah, anyone want to chime in on the Golden Age arc thing being like, peak? No, yes, no, agree. Any arc's better? How y'all feel?
Yeah, I think Vince said it well, and this was your opinion too, Naya. Like Golden Age, it's outstanding, but everything else is really good too. It's just not as good as the Golden Age. It's not that it's not good. It's just not as good as the best.
I also want to clarify with this because I know like it's kind of nuanced because a lot of times when you're starting something like Promised Neverland, you're dealing with a lot of the art of the unknown, right? And as the world opens up and you learn certain things you learn may not live up to your expectations, because obviously it was a mystery at one point. Now you know, and you like did you like that? Did you not like that? And sometimes the world can seem way less scarier or less interesting just because you have so much more knowledge about it as opposed to when you're starting it off where you don't know anything, especially if the character or characters you're following are completely new to the situation. Like I'll just take like Seikai for example. You just get thrown to a new world, it's all fantasy, and that guy spent 19 years beating his meat in his room, doesn't even go outside, right? So like you're learning with the character. Wow. So I don't.
Wow,
That's not lost on me. So I'm not trying to be like, it's less interesting because I know more stuff. Because I don't think that the reveals and such have been like disappointing in any facet. It's just the emotional weight of the relationship, the Band of the Hawks,
Right.
Casca and Guts, all that stuff. I don't know. It's just
Right, and like I kind of related back to a point I was talking about earlier. Their adventure is different. Like some people don't care about world building and stuff to the level that others do. Like I'm somebody.
I definitely don't.
That, see, but like me, world building, like
Lore.
if it's done correctly, is one of my favorite parts of any story ever, especially medieval. Because I just like the way that stuff. Like I like architecture and stuff like that. I like just seeing like random places they have any like.
You know my general point of thumb. As long as it's meaningful to what's happening right now, I don't want to know it just to know it. I don't care. Put that in the data book. I don't care. Don't tell me about some fight that happened 1,000 years ago with two dragons that has literally nothing to do with what's happening right now or what's going to happen. Don't understand.
Right. World building needs to be deep in specific thoughts and areas. It doesn't need to be this wide-ranging thing that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. If that makes sense. Maybe not.
No, think of Essence of Bravery. What was the fucking point?
Yeah.
What was the point? Now it was funny. What was the point? You're just wasting my time with this. That's fake world building. That's lore bore. Keep that away from me.
Lore bore.
Get that away from me. But okay. So I guess most of I mean some of it, but when I say so, do you when you say when I say peak though, do you think that's literally the best thing to you that's happened in Berserk, or do you think still think other things are better though?
No, I think that like there are lots of little moments for me at least in the other arcs when it comes to like Guts monologue and Guts changing as a character,
Okay.
along with the character moments that I actually like way more than a vast majority of the Golden Age.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think in its entirety, the Golden Age is the best, but I would say that like something like Lost Children is still like it's probably the second best arc, and it's like very very high up there for me overall in terms of like other arcs that I've read. So
Lost Children go.
Yeah, I think in terms of the arcs, it's the best, but I think there, for at least for me, there are plenty of other higher points, like just singular points within other arcs that I think are better than, you know, the Golden Age. But as just as arcs, I do think that arc is better than the others. Not like by some massive chasm or whatever. Like I said, I think they're all good. That was just in terms of the overall arc, just the best out of all of them.
Okay.
I concur.
What's next? I closed my fucking thing. I forgot.
let me look.
Okay. We'll talk about some of the. I feel like we talked about it a lot.
Well,
though,
the
with
last thing the next part, Naya, for me would be we kind of have talked about a lot of this other stuff. I would do the ending stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Because
we
we
can
already
go
touched
ahead.
on this. But I'll ask this question because I actually think I don't think I remember to ask it in the last two streams, or at least the last one. I don't remember. But if you we we sucked a lot of dick today for Berserk. But do you have any criticisms? Anything you think could be better or not? It's not so great. Anything you think is bad at?
Well, we already touched on the baiting with Casca specifically.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one.
Structure.
I think it would kind of be like
anything.
well, it would be like overusage of like the sexual themes, maybe to a degree. The rape, doesn't have to be every single
Yeah,
arc.
right. Yeah, I agree.
I
I agree with
understand
that.
that. I
I
mean,
mean, like it's still like it's very impactful for like the series, but like
ex-
it's like know when to use it kind of thing.
Well, at least it all has a purpose. That's my thing. Like if you're gonna do stuff
exactly.
like that,
I would say
it
that
needs
the
it has a
biggest
purpose.
criticism I have for Berserk would kind of be like in two specific areas. That would be in sometime like the boat arc. Like whenever we're on the boat, it's actually amazing for me. But the Sea God arc is it's just not good.
Yeah, I agree with.
I feel like at that
that was
point in
insane.
time, Miura didn't really know where he wanted to go,
Mhm.
and but he still wanted to create material, and he kind of like as a result of it, he kind of falsely inflated the crew's numbers, where now we have Isma, uh, and oh fuck, Azan is now an official part of the crew, and these characters don't matter at all.
Yeah, exactly. People that we have no use for, that's not gonna aid at any point. Why are they here? They're just here to stand on the sideline. Like, nah, man.
And it's just kind of the thing. It's like if you, it's a problem a lot of series face, and there's no like great answer for it. If you just keep increasing the size of your cast, you're basically other people are going to be left on the wayside.
I mean,
And
there's
it's
an
like
answer.
it's not like
There's an answer
Azan
for it.
or like Isma are supposed to be amazing characters. Like they're fine. They're not. There was no promise of them being amazing characters. They're just kind of like there for comedy relief. But I feel like sometimes Miura thinks his series is too dark, so he puts in too much comedy sometimes.
I would say no. I would say there's an answer for it, but my answer may be dark. You use them to intensify the moment, whatever darkness that you want in the series, and you kill them off. But you don't just kill them off for no reason. You kill them to use them. But that may be too much for some people. But that's how you do that. If you want to reduce numbers, you get rid of them.
True.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, I feel like Berserk does a lot of things that like at a high level. But there are some things that overall, if you look back and like you just did them a couple things differently, it would make things better. Like maybe in the future, and Berserk isn't a meathead series, but if you had the rest of the crew does do useful things. But maybe heading into the final arc, if some of like the fighters could like take on some of the dudes like Guts used to beat, while Guts takes on bigger guys, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Like if Serpico actually beat an apostle.
Or Casca.
or Casca.
Like I said,
You know?
what I said. I'd be able to beat somebody.
Stop, please.
Like I said,
Nigga
what
said
I
injected.
now y'all back on my point. Now
Casca
y'all
putting
riding
in
with me.
work. Just forget them.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
That'd be really cool.
You'd love to see it.
Let Casca cook.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
bet. Let Casca cook too.
Let her
go.
cook.
I don't
Cooking
know,
and whipping
don't-
up in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh
Alright.
boy.
Yeah, for me, most of the problem is that most of my problems with the series just stem from just like losing interest because you don't get it that much. Because it's just like I feel like I can't give you full criticism of the series until I get the full direction of where it's going. And right now, I don't really know. So I think he made a good point of the problems that it already has. But even then, I don't feel like they're that huge. I just wanted to get close to
Right.
the ending, and then I can reread it, and I can be like, okay, I wish this was done differently, or I wish it ended this way. Cause like, I'm gonna be honest, like I won't have if he could do it right, cause Miri's a good writer. But it's just like if Gus dies and Griffith lives, I'm not gonna be happy. Like that's just what it is. Like it doesn't mean that he did it wrong, but it will probably be a criticism for me, cause like I'm not gonna be happy if this man live, achieve all his dreams, get his kingdom, seen as the hero of the world, and Gus just dies. I would not be a happy person. Or he just like forgives him at the end of the series or something like that. It's like you can forgive him when he's in hell. That's when he could be forgiven.
Facts.
But just something like that. Like I said, for me, everything an author puts out is not gospel. A lot of people will just align with whatever the author decides to do for a series. I don't agree with that at all.
Niggas just consume.
Think for yourself.
They do.
They just consume. They don't
question
think for
anything.
themselves a lick. You hate to see it, Tower God fans.
Shameless
Bam,
plug.
go.
I won't say anything.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
I don't say anything either.
Allegedly.
I've attacked that series enough, and it's still one of my favorite series.
I'm not gonna stop.
So, hey man, you get paid for it. You get paid. I don't get paid.
You ruined it. All right. Sorry. Does anyone else want to chime in? Sorry on the.
No, I think most people are probably pretty good. My question for you, Nye, would be, what's your overall opinions on the series?
Yeah,
from
where's
your
the rank?
perspective?
Yeah.
You say where I rank it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, not necessarily rank it, but what are your overall what are your overall opinions on Berserk as a series?
No, rank it.
It's not in my top 30. You know that already, so it'll be somewhere in the top 40, probably maybe somewhere there. Overall opinion on Berserk. Art, really good art. It speaks. I'm a fan of showing and not telling, and I love a lot of the panels where Guts is just enraged, especially some of the ones where he's in the Berserk armor. That him fighting against the rage, all that stuff is really good. I think it's a really good series. Like I'll break K-Fob for today, but it's a really good series. I don't have any major criticisms. Anything I have, probably a nitpick, or like it doesn't come out, so I don't care about it. And I may not be the mostly invested as the average person, but I've never not liked the series. And if we want to compare it to other series like of its ilk, so like the Vagabonds or like the Vinland Saga, Ubal Blast, whatever, I think is the best one by far. But I never wavered on that point. But yeah, man, it's solid. It's a good series.
Would you ever consider giving it a reread?
I'm going to I'm going to reread it. I need to reread it, to be honest.
That's cap.
Yo, first of all, Naya, I'm so glad you reminded me of Ubel Blatt, because it's been a while since I caught up with where I stopped. But Ubel Blatt
Man,
slaps.
I love that.
You want to see my top
my
top 10? You know what? A lot of people ask me this. It's for everyone to see. Like I post it very often. It's there for you. I post in the chat. Like I don't hide it. Like I do it every year. I reevaluate my favorite 30 manga and anime every year. I do it.
See, yeah, that's the thing. People act like things can't change. You can't change your opinion on something. When you
absolutely
you can't.
Oh.
Like he nailed it back in the day when we were talking about Tower God back in the day.
You say you put it in the chat?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it in there.
What he basically was like, my opinion changes as I get new information, and a lot of people, for whatever reason, can't handle that. It's like, nah, you need to be here from day one or not at all. Like, nah,
Or they're
what?
really stubborn on the
What?
point where it's like,
Yeah.
if they
Or your
believe
taste.
this is gonna happen, and there's information that would literally go against it, they don't even budge. It's just like,
Yeah. It's weird. Weird how people do that. But
Yeah, I mean, it's not just story related. That's just a human thing.
I
yeah,
I
for
don't
me
do
though,
that.
I can't ever put. I mean, Berserk's still in my top 10, just out of respect for the series. But I can't put it in my top 5 until it finishes. Because for me personally, it's just kind of a rule I kind of gain for the most part. I can't really put anything in my top 5 unless it's a finished product. Because
Yeah,
my opinion can change immensely. So,
right. Yeah,
because
I don't even. Sorry, go
at
ahead.
one point I had Tower. No, you're good, bro. At one point I had Tower God above like One Piece, like completely, and now I'm like, nah, we're good. And I'm not even the biggest One Piece person, like at all.
You're just a lost man.
Hey. Hey, I'm with Vince on that one. So.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's good, but it's just it's just so it's really hard for me personally to stay super engaged when I don't know what's just coming out. I get like one chapter a year, and like I said, this happens with things that I really like. It's just hard, but I want to reread it. And I know it hit a lot harder for you guys when you got into it to the point where it's like, oh, there's no more Berserk. Time to reread it. Cause I would say I did that with Kingdom Hearts as the games would come out and I was waiting for like the next really big time. I'll replay 1. I'll play Chain of Memories 2, 350 over 2 days. Then I'd play Birth by Sleep. I'll play all of them over and over and over and over again. And now I hate the series. It sucks. But anyway.
Well, whenever you reread it and like you complete it, like tell me if your opinion and anything changed for better or for worse.
For sure.
I'd be interested to see what a reread does because usually rereads are very effective for like formulating like what your actual thoughts are. At least for me, at least. Whenever I first read through a series, I'm just like I'm living off of hype.
Yeah.
But then when I reread it, like it just seems like to be a better experience.
You
for me.
notice more, you remember more, you refresh your memory. It's
Especially when it's been 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But enough of that. We've held you here for 3 hours. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
No, we could
So-
we could finish the last question probably. With the end game. So what do you guys think is gonna happen with the end game? This could be wishful thinking, what you literally think is gonna happen. You know, things like what's Griffith's end game along with the other god hands. Do you think they're too strong? And how a bad ending would impact the legacy of Berserk, courtesy of Dritz.
I can't see him having. Well, let me not say that. I can't see him having necessarily a poorly written ending, but I can definitely see him having an ending that I disagree with and hate. I would still respect the series overall, but you know, as all things do, if you hate something, it impacts you. So it's just like I would hate it. Like I said, I gave you the scenario that I would hate. Anything that doesn't befall that scenario, I'd be okay with. My favorite scenario would either be like him and Griffith dying at the same time, or just like Guts winning, and then just like having like, you know, a child, or well, he basically already had one, but it's just like you see his child and Casca or whoever he's with, at something like that. He probably dies regardless. I don't feel like there's a scenario right now where he escapes death, but as long as he wins, kind of at the end, that's all I kind of want.
Yeah, I think Guts is going to overcome Griffith. The question is, how does it happen? And for me, I've been thinking about this for a little while now. I'm almost convinced that Casca is going to die, unfortunately. And I don't want it to happen.
You guys are gonna put this
me
this
too.
bad juju into the universe.
I think it's almost an inevitability, and I can't really. There's not really any concrete reasoning for it. But
why is it an inevitability?
It's just a gut feeling. I said it's not based on anything tangible, or anything I've read in the series. It's just that my gut's telling me she's just not going to survive to the end, and I for some reason I think Guts will. I'm not sure if that's just wishful thinking or anything like that, but something just it just I don't know. I can't quite shake the feeling that she's not going to make it, but he is going. That's all I can really
So
formulate right now because I'm still
Farnus
really
cook for
new
you?
to it.
Farnus cook for you in the end?
Oh my god.
You know,
Oh
I
my
actually
God,
wouldn't
bro.
be surprised
Yo,
if
you
that ended up
done?
happening.
You understand? It's been a rough. It's been a
Because
rough.
I feel like Miura is almost, even though Casca's been in the series longer, obviously, it almost feels like he's given more attention to Farnus. And I wonder if that's because he's got an eye on the fact that she's going to be there at the end and Casca's not. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into something that's not there, but
I will accept this ending because Farnus cooks. So I will accept it.
And there you have it.
Let's go with it.
Now I got my new word for the next week.
Cooks.
For me, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I really don't.
I feel
I'm-
that now.
I'm tired. But as for how as for how I think a bad ending would impact its legacy, believe it or not, it would have to be something
It has to be like Naruto level.
Game
like
of Thrones level, maybe.
egregiously bad, or something that like the fans would just really vehemently disagree with mind, body, and soul. If you get what I'm saying, it's like
yeah.
Griffiths wins. I don't know, Guts. I don't know, something stupid like I don't think it's gonna happen.
Guts forgives Griffith and they
Yeah,
just
like I don't know. It's like
other.
they become friends
that would be
again.
great.
I don't know, something stupid like that, right? Like,
BFFs.
Yeah, that would be just
I don't see that
abominable.
happening, so I don't think the ending is going to affect the overall legacy because it's still very highly regarded as one of the best. You can't. A lot of people are not like me, where I could watch, play something, and I have a great time, and the ending's bad, and I hate the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I'm like that too.
Some people are okay if let's say but like my cousin. He's such a loser. I don't know why he did this. He says as long as he enjoyed 51% of it, it's good.
What?
So
What?
as long as he
That's
enjoyed the
whack.
majority,
And F's good, huh?
it's good.
Huh.
Or like yeah. As I said, like that's not a good mark. And also, some people say like they care about the ride. The ride was enjoyable. They're not gonna punish the whole narrative for a lackluster ending. So
I will.
yes.
Like that. Like, what's the point of the story then? Because stories have beginnings, they have middles, and they have ends. If the end, the culmination of the journey we all go on, is a piece of shit, then what the fuck was the point of it?
it makes it kind of, yeah.
Like
And-
especially after Berserk's been around for 30 years. If it's a shitty ending, that's like Jesus Christ, you wasted.
That'd be like the
quarter
most
of a
elaborate
century.
troll of all time.
It'd be fucking awful.
That'd be kind of funny.
Well, I mean, it just matters for like in terms of like a legacy, like where does the manga stand overall at the end of it? Like,
Mhm.
I also have a very hard time seeing how bad he could fuck it up. Like, but like if it did happen, it would just be god awful. Things that I'm hoping don't happen is that the God Hand, like, there's no like opponents for the rest of the God Hand, and I feel like the next arc's going to be the last arc, so all of the God Hand have to be defeated basically at once.
Oh Lord.
So that'll be like
Do
Guts,
they, though?
Griffith, Void, Skull Knights, and then like the other. Well, they have to be accounted for somehow because they're going to be defeated.
But like all at one time though? Maybe not.
We're heading into the last arc.
I know, but like they don't have to be defeated all at one time.
Well, I don't think Guts.
The
like,
one time.
it just, I don't think Guts is going to like defeat each one by one in like a shonen power scaling feast. You know?
Yeah, I don't think like he gonna do
Oh,
it like
Lord.
that. But I'm just saying, but like I would hate for him to like just swing his sword once and they're all dead. Like what?
Well, no, I think that what I'm hoping would happen is that like the Elf King Danan might be able to take one because she's a mythological figure that's been around like for forever. So like maybe there are some other characters that help come take them on. Like Void will fight Skull Knight almost assuredly. Maybe Skull Knight dies too. But I'm hoping just like the God Hand outside of Griffith, like the rest of them, like Ubek and Conrad are like they haven't done a fucking thing. most people don't even know what their names are. Like we know Slain, we know Void, and we know Griffith. Most people don't even know who Ubek and Conrad are, let alone could they tell you what they look like.
I sure didn't until 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, but Ubek, Conrad, those are the other dudes' names. So I'm hoping that they all go out in a good manner, basically.
All right.
I mean, as long as they all don't get killed all at once, I'm all right. They can leave. I don't care.
I don't know.
I only care about her. Really. I mean, honestly, like I get you though, because I would hate like you want the God Hand still important because he dubbed them important. But all I care about at the end of the day is Guts Griffith, Casca ending, however it goes.
Mm-hmm.
What about Farnus? Does she cook?
Yeah, that's all. Well, obviously, like I even have to say it. You know where I stand on this position. Let Farnus cook at all costs.
Nelly and Jay, do you wanna try something in, or you guys good?
I'll start with. You wanna go first?
Go ahead now. Go ahead, Nelly.
Okay. For immediate, like I think the last panel we got was just school night. So just like the jokes y'all were saying, like you gotta just pop up, give Gus the answer for this whole series. But long term wise, I feel like Griffith would like they won't meet till like way later, and he would like ascend to wherever Mary wants him to go. Like if he wants him to be like king in the astral plane, he'll go much higher than he now. And then the only problem is like y'all were saying, it's like how they would let Guts get strong enough to beat him, because it's like that's still up in the air. But hopefully Casca doesn't
Really
doesn't die.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
what.
Really flashback.
Really different.
It's
But,
better than just
He's been
asking
God
for a
hand the
power up.
entire time. The
It's
hand
better,
actually had,
it's
the
better
hand
than just
actually had 6
asking
fingers on it.
asking for a power up and getting it. That's worse.
Oh, yeah.
Give me the power to
He
defeat
gets the
them
power.
all.
Huh? Where's
Alright.
power?
Is he surprised that he got it?
Yeah. Jay, is he here?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
In terms of the end of the series, I think Dritz kind of the reason I don't really have much to say is because Dritz kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of like, okay, you got the Skull Knight and Void, and then you got Guts and Griffith. What about the other God Hand? And that scares me, just because if all the God Hand have to go down, considering they are basically the arbiters of the idea of evil, it feels as though they just can't be left alone. They can't just be like, all right, well, there could be a possibility where they're just like, all right, well, we're just gonna let Void and Griffith fight, and I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want, and the world's gonna be all right. No, they gotta go down somehow. So
What if they don't?
No.
well, then how would that make sense? Because the God Hand themselves is literally their whole identity is based around the causality and the idea of evil based on the combination of human nature's desire. So it's just like that whole concept is what drives humans itself. So it's impossible for them not to act in a manner that would go against what Guts and Casca and his crew are going are trying to accomplish. So it's like they have to go down. So if that's the case, how are they defeated? Who is capable of defeating not just one God Hand, but another 3? Because we are assuming the Skull Knight is going to take care of Void. Is it Casca? No. Serpico? No. Unless there's some kind of wild, I'm talking wild power up out of nowhere. I just don't see it. Unless the Moonlight Child all of a sudden becomes God himself and just takes
he
out.
could.
You know what I
He
mean? Like
could.
He might
that's
as
the
well
only
could.
wild card that I see that could actually work. But otherwise, anything else just wouldn't make that much sense to me. So I'm worried. And I think they can do it well enough to the point where it's like, okay, say we do get the BS power ups. It would not be as bad as it would be if they just changed the whole narrative of the God Hand itself. I'd rather see a BS power up and then beat the God Hand than them change the narrative of the God Hand for it to make sense. I think that would kind of destroy the story as a whole in itself. So I just want to avoid a Game of Thrones ending. Look, I've enjoyed the ride. I've been scarred by the amount of hiatuses that Mira has taken. I would rather it just end on at least a note where I'm just like, okay, the ending was mid, but the entire story, the ending was okay enough for me to just be like, all right, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Did
And
y'all
that's-
read the secret chapter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read the secret chapter.
The
so-
non-canon,
Yeah.
but is actually canon chapter.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally no
It's weird.
idea.
I actually
Yeah,
read
I
Yeah,
that
I know what
when
it
I
Well,
was
maybe you don't know what it is.
experiencing
It's whenever it's during the eclipse. It's whenever Griffith is basically in like the space zone and he's talking to like the giant heart-looking thing,
I don't know if I read
and that's God.
It's
Yeah.
It's the idea of evil. basically.
Wait,
Yeah.
oh, is it that
Chapter
spiral? I
one.
thought
Oh,
Guts. I
I-
thought Guts talked to that causality too, didn't he?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, it's just Griffith.
Griffith talked to it as he was being transformed, and he basically it was basically confirmed to be the gods, where the entire idea of evil came from.
I,
There was a chapter in the eclipse that Miura then later retconned and said was not canon.
Yeah,
Is it-
because he
isn't that
said
basic-
it revealed too much. He said
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
Isn't it
basically
basic-
he revealed his cards too soon. I think he later realized that actually I kind of want to do things a bit differently.
yeah.
So I think he fucked up a little bit there.
was that 30 years ago?
Uh,
Or
I,
recently?
I
don't know.
forget exactly when.
Who
The
knows?
eclipse would be around 1997.
Yeah, so forever ago. 20 something years ago.
Like about 20 years ago, something like 23 years ago, something like that.
I actually know somebody who's been a Berserk fan since like the beginning. You know.
Bro.
Is he dead?
No, no, he's in his 40s.
Oh, so he's dead.
Also, he's dead.
Wow.
Wow.
I used to shadow him at work. He's a graphic designer, so I used to intern there a little bit. And he used to shadow him at work. I lived in my neighborhood. But yeah, I forgot he's been there from the beginning. But he said he had completely lost touch with it for about, give it or take, 8 years, and then he came back again because it just wasn't something like that. But yeah. Anything you think we forgot to touch on, talk about? Anything?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff, so it was productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we did a great job.
Did we?
Does Farnese cook though?
She does.
That's
There you
gotta
go.
be
We
the-
did a good job.
Name
I
it.
mean, there's just a lot of topics to go over, but the 3 hours of material is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything we want to talk about specifically, we can always say that for another time. I need
Yeah.
bed. Anime's coming out 2020, 2022. I don't know, but the quicker
Title of the video.
the quicker
Let
Fire
Farnes Cook.
Force ends, the better, so I can get Still an Ocean.
Yeah, we still go ocean.
Yeah.
Let Farnes cook. Title of the video. Nailed it.
I'll do that.
See?
What was I gonna say? I had something to say. I don't remember. I'm tired. Thank you guys for coming. It was the Vinland Saga. That's gonna probably come out next week. There should be 2 videos: Thorfinn discussion and probably Canute. I don't know who else I'm gonna do after. Maybe I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Goodbye.